Get the one from Tracy and see what that is.
Amendments.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
And welcome to the Southern University Board of Supervisors meeting. And prior to calling the Academic Affairs Committee to order, I'd like to trust we have enough seats back there. And I know the gentlemen will do as we're taught to do, get up and make sure ladies are accommodated if we're running short. At this time, I'm going to yield to the Vice Chair, and I think he's going to introduce our distinguished gentleman that's going to do the invocation.
Good morning, everyone. I have the distinguished and distinct pleasure of introducing Charlie Ray Hilliard. She is a proud pre-K student at Southern University Laboratory School, where she has been for the past 2 years. Her parents, Christopher and Morgan Hilliard, are both graduates of the Southern University. Charlie Ray earned the title of the 2022-2023 Little Miss Southern and was most recently named as an honorary leading lady for the Southern University system. Charlie Ray brings joy to everyone she meets. Her outgoing personality, kind heart, and infectious smile ensures a lasting impression. She enjoys cooking. You cook, Charlie Ray? Wow. Playing tennis, attending Spanish lessons, piano lessons, reading, and spending time with her family. Introducing you, the future of Southern University, Miss Charlie Ray Hilliard.
All right. You want to do a play if you got to stand up?
She got you. She got you.
Okay.
Members of the board and distinguished guests, please stand for a pledge of allegiance.
Okay.
A pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
You got a certificate for it. And that, we do that.
Yeah. And she just made 5. You gotta get down. Come on, man.
Okay, next up we have a gentleman that is often not overlooked, but under-recognized. That's often doing services, not something that probably he's required to do, but he's led to do. He will lead us in our invocation, and he's one of our own. It's Reverend Thomas F. Clark. Father Clark, would you come forward, and thank you for the many things that you do. And I see him out there at tables, passing out paraphernalia, and he always has that warm smile. So thank you so much, Father.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Good and gracious God, we give you thanks for the gift of this day. We give you thanks for another opportunity to praise you and to serve you. We give you thanks that you woke us up this morning. We give you thanks
that you gave us a sufficient portion of health to be here this day, Lord. And we pray that you would pour out your grace and your blessing and pour out your Holy Spirit upon this board and give them the grace to be able to deliberate and to discern and to act prudently and courageously for the sake of the students of the Southern University system. Lord, we pray for students, for faculty, for staff and administration. Lord, we pray that as this semester draws quickly to a close, that you will help all students and faculty to bring it to a successful conclusion. We pray, oh Lord, for graduating students, that they may fulfill all their requirements and rightly enjoy the fruit of their success. But Lord, we ask a special prayer today for any of our students who may be struggling at this time, Lord. We pray for students who may be struggling with depression or anxiety or family crisis or the burden of stress. Lord, we pray that you will give them the courage to reach out and pray that there will be those who will answer their call. And Lord, if that call comes to one of us, we pray, oh Lord, that we will answer it quickly and with your grace. We ask all this in your precious and sacred name. Amen.
Gentlemen need a lot of prayer on the other side here, Father. They don't have to use behind. Okay. We're going number Lewis. Just go ahead and yeah, we'll go ahead and get into the okay. Okay. Okay, we're gonna kind of skip a little bit before we go into the agenda. We have a presentation, and this one's coming from the Chancellor of the Law Center, who's recommending a talented person to become the next recipient of our Above and Beyond Award. And I also always like to recognize in her absence, she wasn't able to make it today, our Chairman Emeritus, Chair Lady Emeritus, Ann Smith. And actually, we all keep her in our prayers as she tends with family issues at this time with her family. Okay, Chancellor Pierre.
Thank you, Chairman Lawson. Good morning to the honorable members of this great board. Today, for the Above and Beyond Award, I want to present to you, introduce to you, and present to you a very resilient, dedicated staff member who is always seeking perfection and willing to go beyond the extra mile, even during holidays, to make sure that all of our needs are taken care of. She really, we travel a lot and we go to different places and we arrive there with everything taken care of well in advance because of her efforts. She thinks she's here because she wanted to take notes and she's prepared to take notes. But with the coordination of her daughter, we kept some things aside from her. And the person that I'm presenting today works in our Office of Financial Affairs, and it is none other than Mrs. Lois Holden, who has been a dedicated employee, and I'm so honored to be able to recognize her today. No, we don't. I just have a few things that we're gonna take in title. I'm gonna eat the fries. You can go ahead and do what they did.
I would just like to say thank you to this great university. Thank you to my chancellor. And thank you to my coworkers for allowing me to serve and to be a part of this great institution. Thank you so much. And I love you all. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we have some special presentations. And I want to begin by saying congratulations to the Southern University Quiz Bowl. This is a big deal here. The Quiz Bowl team, they advanced to the quarterfinals in the Honda National Championship in Los Angeles, California. They advanced to the Elite Eight out of 32 teams as they fought with grit and determination to gain bragging rights and scholarships for their institutions. They won $10,000 in scholarships. We want to also congratulate Deidre Mackey. Ms. Mackey was honored to serve as a coach for these stellar young men. I would also like to ask Ms. Mackey and the following young men to come up and be recognized for their great achievement. Mr. Carrington Kerr, Mr. Nolan Johnson, who served as the captain, Mr. Kareem Upshaw. I'm going to have a little help on Ms. Amuchizi. And you're going to correct me on that one. Also, I'd like to thank their supporters for while they were in LA, the president, Alicia Jones, and of the Los Angeles Alumni Chapter. And when you talk about what alumni can do, this is one of the things that they could do. And I'm glad that you're recognized in that talented chapter in Los Angeles. And also want to thank the family, the friends, the classmates, and certainly the Jaguar Nation. I think that Miss Alicia is certainly here today. And I'd also like to recognize her and ask her to come up and join us in the photo after she makes her presentation and addresses his body.
Thank you very much to the board and to the nation overall. Certainly, once again, I was elated and excited. These young men performed at their at an excellent level. So I appreciate that. Most of these stellar individuals have been with us since they were freshmen. So they start out, really, having a clear understanding of trivia, of just any topic. So that's math, science, political information, just all genres of topics. So I'm extremely excited and they've worked hard. We have our graduating senior, Nolan. He's the captain. Raise your hand, Nolan. And also Kareem Upshaw. He is going to be graduating this semester as well. We have Akujogu Amuchezi.
Yeah.
He is here and one of our juniors. So we have 2 more years with him, as well as Carrington Curry. And he is here as well. 2 more years with him, thank goodness. So we do have a chance at the full title at the master shot, which would be $75,000. And so we're going to try to shoot for that next year. I still need to certainly thank all of the supporters. In particular, we didn't even have seating for the teams because the Los Angeles chapter, Southern University's Los Angeles chapter came in full effect. So, I mean, it was just like, oh, we'll scoot over. Every time they came in, they had to be introduced. So they supported us, literally stayed there the whole day with us and watched all of the competitions. Were screaming and cheering us on. And I think this encouraged the gentleman much even more. Special shout out to Ms. Dilcy Green from the Monroe chapter. And she was the person who connected the Los Angeles chapter with us. And so we are excited and elated. And once again, thanks to everyone for their support. We appreciate it.
Congratulations again.
The gentlemen are just holding some of the trophies that they've won this year. So that's what they're holding.
Yeah. Okay, next special presentation. We want to recognize a talented group. And this was for the Battle of the Brains. How about that? The Battle of the Brains. The annual HBCU Battle of the Brains competition promotes talented business, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics students while connecting them with some of the country's top employers. This competition pits teams of students from HBCUs around the country to determine which school is in the HBCU Battle of the Brains Championships. Students also participate in company tours, panel discussions to share their experiences and expertise, as well as their facilitated workshops to grow their skill sets and engage in ways. Student teams competed in a 24-hour cross-discipline competition to determine finalists. Finalists are then pitch their comprehensive solution to determine the battles of the Brains champion. Although our students did not win, we applaud them for their participation, and we certainly do that at this time. So we have Nicholas Harden, computer science, Ashner Spivey, computer science, Kennedy Clark, marketing, Naya Campbell, marketing, Nalone Sumo, finance, Carlos Salazar, computer science, Neil LaCour, computer science, and Gabrielle Kelly, business management. And their advisor is a young man that spends a lot of time with young people, so it does not surprise me. We're honored to have Dr. Derek Warren, who was also supported by coaches Brian Adams, D'Amico Stroud, Dr. Yolanda Adams Smith. I didn't mean that. Yolanda Smith, and Ms. Lori Lewis Connerly. Special thanks to Dell Technology, Capital One, SUBR Student Affairs, SUBR College of Business, SUR Science and Engineering for sponsoring sponsorship and their financial support. Lastly, we want to thank Syntex Austin Alumni Chapter. They purchased jackets and fed the students. Once again, alumni stepping up. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Dr. Warren.
Thank you, Chairman Lawson, Vice Chair Whitfield, distinguished members, honorable members of the Board of Supervisors, to our chancellors, administrators, faculty, staff, and Southern University family. It is my distinct honor to recognize and share a little bit of academic excellence. As a professor, it's always great to see our students perform in the classroom, but it's even better when we see them perform outside of the classroom. This is our 5th year competing in the Battle of the Brains, which is held in the city of Austin, Texas. It's held during South by Southwest, which is one of the largest technology, art, and entertainment conferences in the world. Our students were exposed to this. They not only showed up, they showed out, and we're extremely proud of them. But instead of hearing from me, I'd like for you to hear from one of them to just briefly share on their experiences. We have team co-captain Kennedy Clark. Kennedy?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kennedy Clark, a junior majoring in marketing with a concentration in sales and a sports focus. Battle of the Brains is a really special event or competition. It's the first competition I ever participated in. And since then, it's just kind of changed my life. I participated in like 5 or 6 other competitions. And one thing I think that's really important to take away from this competition is just the discipline it teaches you. Staying up for 24 hours is no joke. So staying up and creating a business plan and a solution that is not only, efficient, but also feasible for a company that could possibly hire me one day is a really big stage to be on. And I'm always grateful for the opportunity to do that, as well as the fact that each member of our team this year has an internship. So that's just some of the impact these competitions have for students like us. So I'd like to thank you all here today for listening and just hearing how these competitions have changed our lives, my life, and our lives are the same. And we hope that you support us in the future with other endeavors.
Thank you very much again.
Derek, I was gonna ask, where can I get a t-shirt?
I got you. I have them with me right now in the bag.
All right.
We chair an academic. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
What that rank qualified for only for I'm gonna pass the gavel over to the Vice Chair, Vice Chair Whitfield.
So we've had a lot of exciting things happen with our sports programs. And I'd like to recognize, I see him sitting in the back. The Southern University Lady Jaguars women's basketball team was crowned 2020-23 SWAC tournament champions. Yes, we were. Yes, we were. Coach Funches is in the building. I taught him everything he knew about the game. So, Coach, just let him know what I taught you when you get on the mic. But no, we want to congratulate them and have coaches share a few words with us. We're so proud of you, Coach. Thank you for all you do for those ladies.
Thank you, Dr. Whitfield. Thank you, board members. We had a really tough journey. We fought through some adversity at times, but you're represented by a great group of young ladies. I mean, both on and off the court.
Yes, sir.
We have 100% graduation rate the last 5 years. We will be returning. Well, we're only losing 2 seniors. One has already graduated. Amani McWayne graduated in December. and Tanisha Metcalf will graduate this semester. We're returning 13 out of 15 players. I'm gonna tell you like Coach Banks did. He patted me on the back right after the game. He said, "Great job, Coach. Ladies did a wonderful job. Do it again next year." And I heard you ask about a T-shirt. I do have your T-shirt in my office.
Thank you,
So
sir.
swing through and get it.
Thank you, sir.
But thank you all again.
Thank you, Coach. Now, for some of you who may not know, Southern University does have a women's bowling team. And truth be told, for those that did not know they exist, they are now on the map and they're here to stay. I first had the opportunity to see them practice. I attended their practice one morning and showed them a few things as usual. And I watched them compete. I was allowed to travel to Dallas, thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the SWAC tournament on March 26th and saw them compete, and some amazing young ladies. The amazing competitors that compete with compassion and caring, and they have a head coach who is a Southern University laboratory graduate, a Southern University graduate, a friend of mine. He's like a brother to me, and he is a very, very caring coach who treated them like his own children. The team was founded in the mid-1990s, and they were ranked 5th in the nation in 2004. They've earned 8 SWAC titles. Coach Barry Doyle started as assistant coach in 2019 and became the head coach in 2020. They have defeated 12 top 20 teams in the nation the last 2 years. So when the SWAC conference announced them as the postseason honors, I was not surprised. Jalen Rogers earned the first team honors with the second highest bowling average, and Alana Crawford earned the second team honors. Again, Southern coach Doyle was named the coach of the year this year for the Lady Jaguars. And they had a very impressive season of 20-8 in the league. So they could please come forward, all that are here. And Coach Doyle, Kelsey, Kimberly, Nyla, my twin Raja, Jalen, Lindsay, and Alana, could y'all please come forward? And y'all give them a hand as they walk forward. These girls did their thing. Coach Doyle did not want to wear a tie, y'all, so I gave him that. Yeah, I'm gonna call you out, brother. I'm gonna call you out. Coach Doyle, could you say something to us and just share some thoughts about the team and your experience with the ladies?
Wow, thank you, Dr. Whitfield. Greetings from the women's bowling team. Thank you for having these young ladies in front of you. I am so glad that they're being recognized the way they have this year. I mean, they've turned into movie stars. The school has put them out there everywhere, and I just enjoy watching it. Behind me, in front of you, there's scholars in the classroom, and they're fierce competitors on the lanes. You have, like Doc said, you have first team and second team all-SWAC players, former freshman of the year last year. Just last night, the athlete of the year at Southern University, Kelsey Quinney, was named last November. At first, I was nervous to come up here and speak, but when I get to brag on these young ladies, it's easy for me to speak because they make my job easy. I'm losing 4. Kimberly Jackson and Lindsay Tater-Tot, you guys. They wrote that. They all have nicknames. Kimbo Slice. They're 2 graduating seniors next month in psychology. Alana Coward is not with us. She's a nurse. She's a senior. She's graduating in the fall. She's in clinicals right now. She couldn't make it. I think Roger's in class. Then I have my super sophomores over here, Jalen Rogers, Kelsey Quinney again, and Nyla Wilson. Everyone on my team is 3.0 and above. I'm so proud of them. And again, like I said, they make my life easy. And I'm losing 4. I have 3, but we're not rebuilding. We're just reloading.
That's it.
Thank you.
All right.
Next, we have a talented young man that always have wonderful gatherings on the holidays and invites his closest friends and family, everybody he thinks highly of. I've never been invited, by the way. But Eldridge Jackson, and you've heard of the Top Jags program. We are very, very proud of him and what he does unselfishly. We couldn't afford him if he was on payroll, even paying him at minimum wages. So let's give Eldridge Jackson a round of applause as he comes to us. Tell us about the Jags program, Top Jags program.
You have an open invitation.
All right, thank you.
Good morning
Good morning.
to the board, the chancellors, everyone. O Southern, thy praises we shall sing until all earth and heavens loudly ring. With that being said, and the phone's ringing,
Hey,
as you well know, a year ago, I came to you all with this book, saying we need to do a better job of telling our story, the Southern University story. And proudly today, we have had two more books that have come out. A book came out in the fall with Miss Gabrielle Lenoir on the cover, who's the current Miss Honors College Association from Houston, Texas, who went to UPenn this past summer, who just won Miss Senior as well, and she's a member of the Honors College. We now have over 150 students in this past book that we just published on Tuesday. We also had a scholarship achievement dinner in the event center with over 200 people in attendance. The book that you all have here with Ms. Gabrielle Lenoir on the cover, if you look inside, it's not an Eldred thing. It's an alumni effort, along with affiliations with people who work with me, who assist me, who work with me from the campus. The DXC project management team under the direction of Dr. Yolanda Albert Smith, along with Ms. Heather Williams and Tamiko Stroud, along with Mr. Derek Warren, Ms. Francesca Simmons, and others who all work on this as other duties as assigned. We also work closely with financial aid and the admissions office. So we had a joint letter that went out that basically said to every student who had a 20 or above on the ACT and a 3.0, receive this in the mail. I think that was about the pause there. So this is our effort to show the state legislature and others that we are trying to get the best and the brightest to Southern, with the emphasis on tops. You have a 20 on the ACT, you're getting tops. So that's what we did. An email went out about 6 weeks ago. Over 75 students applied to the email. This actual book went out in the mail about a week ago. Mr. Christopher Levy got 30 applications the first day. So if the time and effort that we put in, we use the Top Jags Fund with money to go out with the books and the effort that's going in, and we basically are hearing from students who want to attend Southern. Lastly, but not least, I want to come up here once a year and tell you what we're doing. But since the other accolades of the other areas, we had 3 groups of Top Jags that made awards this past year. The Thurgood Marshall Allied Moguls in the Making won 3rd place out of all the HBCUs. Hello. $2,500 a piece for each student. $5,000 each per scholarship for each student. And we had 4 or 5 people on that team. The Kroger Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Innovation Pitch. We had several students on that team. They got $5,000 a piece and $15,000 to grant to the SU Ag Center. And Mr. Robert Easley has been wonderful working with us with that. And last but not least, the Molson Coors Innovation Challenge, we got 1st place on that. And a member of the team got $2,500. So these are that, and I don't want to drop the mic, but half those students you name, they top jacks. Hello. So,
Hey.
so the Battle of the Brains, as well as Jalen and Kelsey on the bowling team, they're top jacks. The current Miss Southern, is a top jag. The current, the incoming SGA president and SGA vice president are top jags. So they are truly the student leaders on campus. We had an interest meeting. We had 30 students who attended, another 30 who said they couldn't make it, but they want to be top jags. So we are setting the bar, but with the help of faculty and staff who will do this as other duties that's assigned, making it happen. And we have a lot of alumni that are helping. Alicia Sutton Jones, my little sister, Los Angeles, she's one of the biggest speeders to top jags. And after that, Valerie Jacobs Rosell in Dallas and Brandy, I'm sorry, I forgot your last name. Love you to death. Brandy in Dallas are also a feeder system, along with Miss Delcy Green in Monroe. It's not about us. Everybody knows it ain't about us. It ain't about me. It's about the kids and about Southern University. With that, thank you all.
Thank you. Kappa man.
And if you want to take a picture of the top jacks that's still here with me, that'd be fine
We'd
too.
love to do that. We would love to do that.
Oh, thank you.
Is a commissioner here?
Everyone, I'd like to. Mic check, okay then. I'd like to bring to the microphone Dr. Ronald Andrews. Dr. Andrews is an internal medicine pediatric physician here in Baton Rouge, graduate of Meharry Medical College, where I also attended. We were student classmates, actually. He was appointed by Governor John Bell Edwards as the CMO of Bring Back Louisiana, a bold grassroots campaign to bring COVID-19 vaccines to the communities of color concerning, of course, the pandemic and epidemic. Again, a dear friend, medical school classmate, a primary care doctor, and he was recently elected as the president of the East Baton Rouge Parish Medical Association. There's the East Baton Rouge Parish Medical Society, which governs the state. The East Baton Rouge, I mean, it's the city, but the East Baton Rouge Parish Medical Association is geared towards the African-American physicians in the community. And so it had been defunct for some time. We're trying to bring that back. So we have a new leader. And before you start, Ron, I just want to share with the board that today, according to the Association of American Medical Colleges, Black physicians account for 5% of all physicians in the country, even though we comprise 13% of the state of the United States. Only 1,600, that's about 7.4% of the 21,863 students who entered medical school in 2019 were African-American, roughly the same ratio as 15 years ago. So Ron has spoken to the president, and we had a meeting of the minds as well as with our East Baton Rouge Parish Medical Association about why a medical school in the city of Baton Rouge might be important. So Dr. Andrews.
Thank you, Dr. Whitfield, and thank you, board, for having me. I bring you greetings from the East Baton Rouge Medical Association. As Dr. Whitfield said, I'm Dr. Ronald Andrews. I'm a board certified physician practicing both internal medicine and pediatrics. I want to just bring you 4 or 5 salient points about why bringing a medical school to Southern University's campus would be of utmost importance. And I want to look at those things from a national, state, local, and then even personal reason of why that would be of utmost importance. Number one, nationally, I don't know if all of you know, some of you may, but Louisiana actually has the worst health outcomes in the nation. Depending on where you get your information from, health statistics usually are 15 to 18 months behind. So some of this data does include COVID. We often say in Louisiana, we're near the bottom and we compare ourselves sometimes to Mississippi or Alabama. A lot of times we'll rate 46 to 48, but it's unfortunately unequivocally proven now that we are 50th in states as far as health outcomes. So that's number one. Number two, there was a recent article that just was published, and I mean this month in April, by the Journal of the American Medical Association, which is our largest medical association in the country and the world. There have been many studies that never could prove the correlation between Black physicians and health outcomes in minority populations. So this article that came out on April 14th by one of the largest journals, most respected in the country, noted that Black life expectancy was extended when there were Black physicians in that particular county. So I don't want to, I'm hail from Texas, so I don't want y'all to think I've lost my perspective of where I am. So they did not mention parishes, but what the article said, and all of this, Dr. Whitfield, I could provide to you, so if you need to disseminate it, that 90% of American counties have a physician in the county. Of that, only 50% of them have a Black physician in the same said county, and that life expectancy was extended not just for Black patients, but all patients in those counties that had a Black physician. If we bring it down to the state level, what we know when you add a medical school to a state and provide medical education training, and I am an example of this, that where physicians train, they stay. And we have a lot of hard times in healthcare bringing new doctors in from other states if they don't have a tie to our communities as far as opportunities are concerned. What they found out was in Louisiana, this goes from 40 to 60%, but in Louisiana, 55% of doctors who train in Louisiana stay in Louisiana. I use that as a personal example. I mentioned I grew up in Texas. I went to college at Hampton, Virginia, went to medical school with Dr. Whitfield at Meharry, but I finished my training at LSU in New Orleans at Charity Hospital. And I've been practicing here now for 23 years. I had no idea I was going to stay in Louisiana when I came, but I am one of those statistics that if we add medical education in an HBCU type environment, we could increase the amount of Black physicians that stay in the area. Dr. Whitfield mentioned that I spoke with Dr. Shields on multiple occasions. And in my work with the governor, we had discussed with our immediate past Secretary of Health that there is an interest for Southern and there's support for Southern to add a medical school. We all know and we applaud Xavier announcing that they had opened a medical school, but their opinion is that that's a private institution and that there is room and funding and support for a public option to add a medical school to this state and to this university. So I come to you from the East Baton Rouge Medical Association, which is the largest, believe it, in Baton Rouge is the largest Black medical chapter in the state. And we are here to help and support any way we can to get this done with the university.
And let you know that there is potential to do that. I know it seems like a pretty broad task, but Ron, the information that you provided and what we've discussed, and we had a little roundtable discussion with some other physicians. There's strong interest for not just the medical school, but support from the African-American physicians in the community to support our young people on the campus, from mentoring to shadowing, whatever it may be. So some of us are doing that already as a volunteer, but we needed a more organized and structured and what better place to do it than Southern University. I don't know if I had the privilege, but Dr. Tarp, I appreciate if you'd let me act like the chair for a second and allow Fondell to ask a question. I I want to commend your effort, Dr. Whitfield. You know, I know your story, you know, and I think the doctor here probably shares the same type of story with regards to becoming a doctor. But after what we went through here the last several years with the pandemic and all of us being touched and affected, this is our way of being able to make a difference in our community. And I see this as a historic moment that we are setting out on a pathway through conversation by actually making a difference in helping people in the future. So I want to commend what you're doing. I want to commend what Dr. Whitfield is doing and its administration and their efforts to make our community better. This is how it starts. This is how it starts. And I'm in total support of the opportunity to bring something special to this state. Many folks died because they didn't have people in their area that looked like them. They could tell them. My neighbor was the first person in my community, the very first person, a matriarch in our community that passed away. And us doing this is going to make a difference for our generation and for the next generation. So thank you, Dr. Whitfield, for what you're doing and the support of this board. My hope is she'll be behind it full force. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Andrews, continue saving lives, brother.
Thank you.
I'm not going to tell about our parties in my hair, though. Thank you so
I
much.
digress.
Okay, thank you. I think that's most of the special presentations. And look, it took a little longer than normal, and guess what? That's okay. Because when I hear about 100% passage rates from an athletic team, we don't take all the time we need to take. And this is about academics. That's why we're here, and they happen to be athletes. So when we hear about young people going to quiz bowls and staying up 24 hours, that's worthy of us taking a few extra minutes is all we took. And I don't make any apologies for that, quite frankly. So with that being said, I'm going to go to Dr. Tarver that he take charge of his committee. We took a dive into quite deeply, Dr. Tarver, Academic Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Mr. President, we get a roll call.
Absolutely. Dr. Leon Tarver II,
Here.
Chair. Mr. Sam Gilliam, Vice Chair. Attorney Jody Amity. Mrs. Maple Gaines.
Here.
Mrs. Ann Smith. Dr. Orlando Williams. Mr. Myron K. Lawson. Present. We have a full quorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The next item on the agenda, since we've covered the special presentations, is the adoption of the agenda. And in light of the fact that we have added some things to the agenda that's not there, I need a motion to amend the agenda for future adoption by adding the bowling team presentation that we heard, which would be special presentation D, bowling team, and special presentation E, top jags. And of course, let's add to that F, Dr. Andrews' presentation on the Southern University Medical School project. I get a motion to that effect. Needs to be unanimous from the committee members.
Agenda as amended.
We have to, okay. Is that okay? Okay. Do we have a motion? Is there a second? Dr. Williams? Okay, thank you. All of those in favor, let me know on sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So I have it. Thank you very much.
It needs to be a roll call.
A roll call on this?
Mhm.
Now, roll call for the committee, a roll call for the
The committee,
board.
the committee
Okay.
for the amending of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, would you give us a roll call? on this,
Absolutely.
please? Thank you.
Dr. Leon Tarver II.
Yes.
Mr. Sam Gilliam. Attorney Jody Amity. Mrs. Maple Gaines. Mrs. Ann Smith. Dr. Orlando Williams. Mr. Myron K. Lawson.
Yes.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. And we don't need another motion or another question. Thank you very much. So we move on now to item 6, public comments. Are there any public comments at this time in reference to any item on this agenda? No cards. Hearing none, thank you very much. We move on to action item 7A. Request approval of commencement resolutions for SUNO, SUBR, SUSLA, and SULC. We get a motion to the effect of passing that by Dr. Williams, seconded by, yes, Mr. Gilliam. All right. All of those in favor, let it know, sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so pass. The next item B, request approval of agreement between Southern University of New Orleans and Dillard University. Dr. Ammons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Academic Affairs Committee, members of the board, President Shields, and colleagues. We have before you this morning a contract for residential facilities for Dillard University for at least 200 students from Dillard University to reside on the SUNO campus. This is a 2-year agreement, and the total for the 200 beds would be 1.1 million for the year. This agreement also allows, if needed, for the university to provide up to 300 beds for Dillard. And again, this is a 2-year contract.
Yeah. What is your pleasure, members of the committee? Moved by Dr. Williams and seconded by Ms. Gaines. Thank you. All of those in favor, let it know, sign of aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. So passed. Next item is C, request approval to offer multiple level masters in art and teaching program and CIP code change request, SUBR. Dr. Sahu?
Yes. Chairman of the Academic Affairs Committee, Dr. Tarver, members of the committee, President Shields. I request your approval to offer at SUBR through the School of Education a multiple level masters in arts and teaching graduate program for the purpose of attracting more multi-level teacher candidates in a variety of certification areas. The additional certification areas will be added to the existing masters in arts in teaching program that is presently limited to offer at the level of elementary education only. This approval of yours will expand our ability to serve the needs, teacher needs at our state, in our state.
Thank you. Any questions? And a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Gilliam and seconded by Dr. Williams. All of those in favor, let it be known, sign of aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. So good.
Thank you.
Item 7D, request approval of Ed Advancement Inside Track Contract, SUNO. Dr. Ammons.
Yes. Thank you. At SUNO, we have adopted a name for our Student Success Initiative. It's called Pathway to Knighthood. And what we have done in relation to that is to set some pretty lofty goals as it relates to not only recruitment, but also retention, graduation, persistence, and placement. And we have been looking at ways to support our Student Success Initiative. And we were fortunate to be selected among 15 other HBCUs by the Thurgood Marshall Fund and the Partnership for Education Advancement with a $494,000 grant to assist us in bringing students back who have stopped out, working more intensely with currently enrolled students, and also building capacity in our student support areas, for instance, our student coaches and our academic advisors. And so this grant will support the university in assisting our students to get across the finish line with their degree. And so we ask your approval of this agreement.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Dr. Ammons? If not, may I have a motion to adopt it? Moved by Ms. Gaines and seconded by Dr. Williams. All of those in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item 7E, tenure and promotion recommendation for faculty who have gone through academic review and meet all of the necessary requirements sooner. Dr. Ammons?
Yes, we have one additional recommendation for a tenure and promotion, Professor Adam Ballack, who is a professor in English who teaches creative writing. Again, he has gone through all of the internal processes at the institution, the department, college, the university level, reviewed by the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs and the Chancellor. And so we bring this recommendation to the board this morning.
Any questions? May I have a motion to adopt? Ms. Gaines, and seconded by Mr. Gilliam. All of those in favor, let it be known as a sign of aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Next item is F7F, tenure and promotion recommendation for faculty who've gone through academic review and meet all the necessary requirements, SUBR. Dr. Sahu?
Thank you, Dr. Tavo, Chairman, members of the committee, President Shields. The list of candidates for tenure and promotion or promotion is included in your package. Each of these faculty have distinguished themselves by fulfilling the requirements of the university to either fulfill tenure requirements or promotion requirements at our university. And thus I have the honor and pleasure to recommend to you the list of, I think, 8 faculty members who are included in your package who have earned tenure and or promotion at our university. Thank you.
Any question, any comment? Hearing none, move for approval by Mr. Gilliam and seconded by Dr. Williams. All those in favor, let it be known as a sign of aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Thank you. Move on to 7G, tenure promotion recommendations for faculty who have gone through academic review and meet all of the necessary requirements, SULC. Chancellor Pierre.
Yes, good morning again, Dr. Tarver, members of the committee and the board. Today we have one candidate, that's Michael Osarusko, who is now an associate professor, and the Faculty Appointment, Retention, Promotion, and Tenure Committee has recommended them, and I concur in their recommendation for him to be awarded tenure and be promoted to full professor. This is also historic because he is the first Native American to be awarded tenure and full professor at the Southern University Law Center. And we have 2 Native Americans at our law center, and no other law school has more Native American professors that are on tenure track or tenured in the country.
Amazing. Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Williams, seconded by Dr. Williams. I'm sorry, Mr. Gilliam. All of those in favor, let it be known as a sign of aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Now that next takes us to information item. Columbia University MOU. Who has the honor of making that presentation?
Dr. Stubblefield.
Dr. Stubblefield?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Mr. Chair, Mr. President. We initially started out with the Columbia University partnership to see how Southern University generally could best promote economic development here in and around Baton Rouge. So one of the things that we saw was, how do we develop these strategic partnerships to really push out some of the efforts that the president has actually identified as important to the university, but overall, what we've seen as issues are opportunities moving forward. So we came up with these general questions such as, how do we institutionalize economic development to support connectivity to North Baton Rouge, the state, and building out for Southern University's mission to be more global. How do we actually expand that reach outwards outside of our institution? Secondly, how do we develop or create diverse revenue streams that complement how do we actually create our revenues today in terms of student enrollment? But we necessarily have to create these additional spaces where we can actually grow opportunities internally at the institution. In so doing, when we look at these relationships, what we do at Southern University as a living learning institution, how do we actually live and see these things happen on our campus is actually teaching our students at the same time. And then finally, what partnerships, whether they're public or private, can really push forward these mantra activities that we seek and grow our institution and really grow our relationship more globally than we have in the past and grow our historic relationships as well. Hence, our partnership with Columbia University. Now, things I've stated are not necessarily built or necessary for Columbia to participate in, but it's again about how these particular relationships can really push us forward. So you start off with a simple conversation. You know, how can Southern University and Columbia really push out some new objectives together? And we look at these particular institutions, Southern and Columbia. You know, people might think that they are worlds apart, but then we look at both institutions located in underinvested communities. You know, Columbia University in the in the Harlem area, Southern University is in North Baton Rouge. Two, both are in major port cities, being in New York and Baton Rouge. So these are some of the areas that we easily see. And then some Southern University and Columbia both have academic offerings that are similar, such as including nursing, engineering, science, and the law schools. And then our research thrust areas, sustainable development, materials research, or some leading research thrusts at both our schools. Then we both have institutions of small business development centers. And then we both have faculty members that come across the globe. So there are truly points of collaboration that already exist. So what have we done to actually push us forward to this particular point today? We started off with some summer, what do we call them? We call them summer sabbaticals for our faculty members. And one of the things, Dr. Whitfield, is that 2 of our faculty members will be working with the Columbia Medical Center this summer. So it leaves us with a particular conversation that can really grow the presentation that was presented earlier today. So Southern University and Columbia are actually taking this MOU and saying, what can we do short-term and long-term to really benefit our institutions? Joint proposal submissions, we've already started these particular efforts. Faculty leadership and training programs working with their provost at Columbia University and with Southern University as well. Visits that we expect over the next couple of months to really support, again, the strategic implementation of this MOU. Now, we sign these things many, many times, right? But the point comes to how you actually activate them. So we're excited that we're putting people in place to really grow this thing long term. One of the things I like about it as well is that, you know, Southern University has this land grant mission. And one of the things, Dr. Tara, is about what we tried to do before and have continually done in terms of working in Africa. Work with Columbia World Projects, for instance. One of the things that we presented to them is they have these 17 sites across the globe. Some of them are actually in the United States. But a pilot that we see as an opportunity is how can Southern and Columbia support an HBCU World Project, you know, where it actually is something that can be replicated at other institutions. So we are excited about the opportunity to grow revenue, to look for additional research and outreach opportunities that expose our undergraduate research students as well to these spaces. But also we look forward really to doing something unique and different that can be replicated in other spaces. So I like this particular quote. As this pivotal moment for HBCUs, when federal agencies have carved out funding for underserved institutions, we have extraordinary opportunities to leverage the intellectual capital and resources that a university like Columbia has teamed. The intellectual capital and resource that a university like Columbia has teamed up with under-resourced but intellectually strong institution like Southern could open up new doors for our faculty and students. So we look forward, this is a quote that Dr. Shields has put out, but I think we should actually live those types of statements. So we look forward to working with all of you guys and making these things a reality. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any comment? Thank you very much, Dr. Stubblefield.
Yes, sir.
This brings us now to to item 9 of the business. Is there any other business before the committee at this time? Hearing none, we have a motion to adjourn. By Dr. Williams, second by William. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tarver. Athletics committee's next, but before that time, I'm going to ask that a talented young man come forward and say hello to us and address us in any manner he cares to do so. It's our Public Service Commissioner, Lewis, is here, and very, very exciting, talented, energetic, and innovative guy, and we look forward to working with him. He's already doing wonders for us, and we expect so much more as he would expect as of us as well. Thank you for being here, Mr. Lewis, Commissioner Lewis. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's an honor to be here today. I'm on behalf of District 3 of the Public Service Commission, which house this amazing institution, as well as Southern University of New Orleans and the Law Center. As I've now spent over 112 days now on the commission, I think partnership, especially with Southern University, is going to be extremely important. I'm looking at a diverse pipeline issue when we talk about in law and energy policy, when we talk about using our accountants on the trading floors of renewable energy facilities. I was in Houston and in West Palm Beach, and it was amazing that you're watching people trade in real time the energy of solar and wind, but how very few of them look like many of us in this room. And so I've been in deep conversations with companies and industry around here about building an HBCU pipeline. And so I'm pleased today to talk about how we will be coordinating with President Shields and Chancellor Pierre on some projects that the MISO, which is our regional transmission organization, is working on, bringing students to Oklahoma City this summer to talk about careers in energy policy. I'm also working with other industries like NextEra to make sure that we are investing and bringing dollars back here. And so one of the projects that I'm proud to talk about is under the commission's authority in each political subdivision, we have a money that is utilized for energy efficiency to go into government buildings, public universities, high schools, administrations, and help improve lighting. And while we don't have a direct proposal just yet, I want to inform all of you that I have been working with President Shields and Chairman Lawson on a robust proposal to provide much needed funding to improve campus lighting here, not only for energy efficiency, but for safety. And so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to make those announcements very soon about what we're doing and how we're going to do it. But I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself, say that my office is open and transparent to continuing working with you and building a strong relationship and making our state better than what it is now and to be what it can be, but then also providing a significant pipeline for our students in a growing field, in a field that needs to be diverse, in a field that is economically viable, but is also so much important to the people and the constituents we represent. I come from a higher ed background. While I'm not a Southern grad, I went to McNeese State University, was on the University of Louisiana Board of Supervisors. So I understand the hard job that you have. I remember those days, but I did hire a Southern law grad as my chief of staff, Charlotte Cravens, who's here in the office. So I'm bringing it around, but I just wanted to introduce myself, take some time, and look forward to the next 5 years working with all of you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
I think Board Member Fondell has a question.
I want to say hello to you and commend you on the work that you're doing. Brother Lewis is from Southwest Louisiana. He comes from a family of service. His father's an elected official in Southwest Louisiana, representing the Caltree Parish Police Jury. His mother, they're entrepreneurs. So he comes from a good stock, and we are so very proud of what you're doing throughout the state to help others, and also being here, working with this administration to make things better. So I want to commend you. I've already taken a picture, forwarded it to your dad already to let him know. So thank you and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Did I see your hand up, Dr. Tarver? Yeah, but what Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We call the meeting of the Athletics Committee to order. Mr. President, we have a roll call.
Attorney Des Moines Rutledge,
Here.
Chair.
Here.
Dr. Ronnie Whitfield, Vice Chair.
Here.
Attorney Jody Amity. Mr. Raymond Fondell.
Here.
Mr. Paul Matthews.
Here.
Mrs. Ann Smith. Mr. Myron K. Lawson.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. It's been moved by Mr. Fondell and seconded by Chairman. Is there any objection to the adoption of today's agenda? Hearing none, the agenda stands adopted. Are any public comments? Are there any public comments? I hear that there are no cards and I see no one approaching. We go now to our action items number 5. And before we invite the athletic director to introduce our new coach, we'll go ahead and dispense of the item and we'll recognize Mr. Fondell for the motion.
Thank you very much.
Attorney Rutledge, Chairman Rutledge. Prior to making the motion, I just want to say we didn't get here by accident. You saw earlier excellence in our athletes that have come here. We saw 100% graduation rate from our basketball program, but there's more to it. Our program in 2015, when we got started here under the leadership of Chairman Emeritus Tarver, when our athletic director at the time, interim, Coach Banks was there, we had 3 programs. Only 3 programs that were eligible for the NCAA. All right. That we ended up working through those challenges to just a few years ago, having all of our programs, all 15 of our programs operating in such a manner that we're able to compete for NCAA championships at all categories. And not only that, over half of our students, academics, are above a 3.0, and we are graduating at a rate that truly sets the standard in HBCUs, and especially here in the SWAC. I say it's not by accident. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of work that went into it. Not only work by the athletic department, by the administration, but also by this board. Folks that are sitting here on today in support of what we've been able to do over the years. It's not by accident. It's taken a lot of work. You may not see it on the front end, but it is there. And I know many of us get calls whenever there's a coaching change. We all have opinions and everything. And ultimately, we come together at the end of the day. So I just want to commend the athletic department, their strive for excellence, their commitment to that. On last night, me and Ms. Dudley had an opportunity to go to their banquet. The room was full. 4 championship trophies that were there. Speaking in terms of the good that has come out of what we've brought together here. So with that being said, I just want to make the motion for the coach, the item that is on the agenda, to move forward with it. I'd like to make that motion at this time.
Second.
That's been moved and properly seconded. All right. Moved by Mr. Fondell and seconded by Mr. Matthews. Yeah. Ms. Gaines? Yes. Yes.
And I'd like to send that to the department as well. But my question here, the question is the Advisory Athletic Council. Were they involved in this process? And if so, who are the members of the Advisory Council?
I'll let the athletic director respond, who's present. I'm not sure what you mean by the Athletic Advisory Council.
According to the bylaws, there is an athletic council with 5 members of the faculty, student body, members of the Alumni Association, and so forth. So my question is, if they were involved in this selection?
So historically, they don't get involved with, the athletic committee is not to get involved with hiring the coaches. That their responsibility lies from as appointed by the athletic director and always approved by the chancellor, president of this university. It is my responsibility in most cases to work in concert with the athletic chairman as well, and also the chair of the board. But we did have our own committee as well. That wasn't a decision that I just made. We had a committee that made up of Booster Club members, faculty and staff, teachers, about a committee of 8 that was also engaged into this process. And that has been the process for this athletic department for the last 20 years of the business of going by, getting a coach just like you would at any other university.
Okay, well, I will reread the bylaws because my understanding was that they were engaged in the selection of head coaches. So thank you for that information.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions, Ms. Gandy?
No.
You done? Okay. All right. Any comments, questions from any other members? All right. Hearing none, is there any objection? It's been moved and properly second. Item stands approved. And before you introduce the head coach, Mr. Athletic Director, Mr. President, Chancellor, would you like to offer any comments prior to the coach being introduced by the Athletic Director?
Just briefly, but I will say that Athletic Director Banks brought the 2 outstanding candidates to meet with me. I made sure making the point that their boss was the athletic director, although basketball coach is in trouble because I think I know something about basketball. Well, whether that's true or not is a separate issue.
You're in Louisiana.
I thought the 2 candidates I met were very strong candidates. I have 3 points that I wanted each of them to hear. Number 1, I think the participation in athletics at the collegiate level ought to be transformative for the students. That's number 1. That my view of the athletic department also means it has to do everything it can to sustain itself. And number 3, as long as they're keeping score, I care about that. And the coaches need to know about that. I thought Athletic Director Banks kept me informed as the progress he was making. I know a bit about this, and I know that you can't take 6 months to hire a coach. You have to move pretty quickly. And when seasons end, there's a window, particularly now with the transfer portal and other things going on. You have to get somebody in place pretty quickly. And I appreciate the athletic director's efforts on this front. And I promise I will keep my supervisory efforts directed at officials and not the coach.
Thank you, President Shields. Mr. Banks, you'll introduce.
And obviously, I kind of got a little emotional when Supervisor Fundale was making this statement about athletics. And just for me personally, the challenge that was presented when I took over at this spot. And we all know about that story, the embarrassment that it was. And to be where we are now is, when I reflect on it, is an incredible story. And it wasn't done just by Roman Banks, but it was a team of people, including yourselves, that's sitting around. And the sacrifices that are made from missing birthdays and family moments, and probably even deaths and funerals in your family, that you have to make to show great leadership for your department and for this university, that they come first and you come second. When you reflect on it, it means a lot to me. And so I just want you all to know that I and we get up every morning to do the very best that we can to represent this university. I often say from scandal, staying out the media from scandal. We know we have 18 to 22-year-olds that we have to make sure that we govern every day. And you all know that that's not easy, especially in today's time. Making sure that our student athletes' mental health is being governed every day and having an outlet where they can go to keep themselves from all hurt, harm, and danger as well. And so, as you've seen, coaches that came up here earlier, I know the long hours that they put in and the sacrifices that they make, and it's just great to see the labor of their reward of the time that they have put in and the sacrifices. And we don't make any excuses because we know in this business that we raise our hands to do this. And so I'm appreciative to you and all the coaches and all the administration and the athletic department. And thus we move on a little further now that we search high and low and for our 15 head men's basketball coach here at Southern University. Southern University is rich in tradition in all sports, and particularly after coming off the chest of Coach Job and other legends that coach here before, you want to make sure that you're doing a very good job of hiring someone not just can coach the game, but can lead young men to men as well along the process and to represent this university very well wherever they go. And I think we found that candidate who checks all the boxes. We know that he's known as a pioneer for the state of Louisiana because if you peruse his resume, he's basically served his state very well when it comes to being a basketball coach and highly touted as a hot commodity. And so today, I'm very thankful for your approval. As most of you probably know him because he's been in a lot of your homes with recruiting kids, your nieces and nephews, as I find out along the way. So he's no stranger to a lot of us in this room. And so without any further hesitation, can I bring before y'all Coach Johnson, better known as KJ, Coach Kevin Johnson, as our next 15 head basketball coach. Thank you, Coach Banks. Good morning to all.
Good morning.
In the last 3 weeks, I've been overwhelmed with a variety of emotions. But there are two that kind of stick in my head and come to the forefront. One is the excitement that I have for this position. I haven't been getting a lot of sleep the last 3 weeks, and there's two kinds of not getting a lot of sleep. There's a good not getting a lot of sleep, and there's a bad. This has been all good because before I lay my head down at night, my mind is racing about the possibilities and the job that's before me. And as soon as I get up in the morning, my mind goes back to that same place. So that's the good not kind of getting to sleep, and I'm excited about this challenge. The other emotion is one of gratitude. I'm thankful that my Heavenly Father has led me to this place. I'm thankful to the board. I have met some of you and talked to you, and I appreciate your welcoming spirit. I appreciate your kind words, and I will appreciate your support, and I look forward to meeting the ones of you who I have not met. I also want to thank President Shields. When I sat down and talked to President Shields, he gave me those 3 pillars, and he gave me the Cliff Note version. He said, I want a coach who is willing to transform young men. And you said you wanted to see that transformation. He said, I need a coach who is willing to raise money. I realize that is a part of my responsibility. And then he said, I want a coach who is going to help us play meaningful games in March. And if you don't know what March Madness is, I took that to mean win championships. Because if you're playing in March, you're playing for championships. I appreciate you giving me the Cliff Note version, but I want you to know I'm going to read the whole book. I'm going to do my work in getting us to that place. Also, I want to thank Athletic Director Roman Banks and his staff. because the process, this just didn't happen. Okay. The process was thorough. And I'm not standing here because it happened. I had to do my work. And I'm grateful because that's the only way I would have it. But the process was thorough and completely professional. And I hope I hadn't missed anybody else, but I certainly wanted to acknowledge that. The last 3 weeks have been a whirlwind. I have spent a lot of time on the phone, recruiting, trying to fill a roster. But what's been eye-opening to me is the time I have spent around the players, the 6 players who are returning for next year's team that were on last year's team. And this is what I discovered. This is the reason I say it's eye-opening. Not one of those young men in their conversations with me asked me anything about X's and O's and what I know about basketball. Not one. And I'm glad it was that way. What they want to know is that their next coach cares about them. And I'm going to give that to them. I think that's one of the building blocks in today's climate. To lead young men between the ages of 18 and 24 is a tremendous responsibility. I understand that and I accept that. And I know that we have to have relationships with these young men that are sincere and real. I know that we have to be connected to them. I know that the communication has to be consistent, and I know we have to be authentic. If those things don't exist, we won't win. It doesn't matter about having the best talent if you don't have those things. We're going to have that, and I'm going to lead my staff in that direction. My connection with this university goes way back. My mother graduated from Southern University, Baton Rouge, 1963. She's still living in Morgan City today as a retired school teacher. What I am grateful about is her and my father made sure that we spent a lot of time on this campus as a young child. So I know the feeling of a Saturday football game here at Southern University from my childhood. As a young elementary student, I went to basketball games in the mini dome when it was new. I dreamed of playing in the mini dome. Southern University didn't offer me an athletic scholarship, and I certainly didn't hold that against them because I felt in my heart one day I would return, having no idea it would be in this capacity. I'm excited to be your 15th head men's basketball coach, and we have hit the ground running. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Coach and Athletic Director. Before you get away, we're very, very happy to have you. And of course, you know, with all of the well wishes comes great expectations. But we have a few board members who'd like to speak. We first recognize Dr. Williams.
So I want to just say to this athletic department, y'all are awesome. But I have to say, Kevin, welcome home. This is my homeboy. See, on the Bayou, we take care of our own, and I'm so happy to have you here. And I have to share this story about what we are about to get. There was a young man at Ellendon Memorial High School. And so I live in a town that is 16% African American. And so often our students do not get an opportunity for exposure. And so he was one of the top recruits and was not being recruited by anyone. And this man not only took a chance on him, but he invested his time in him. And he went on to be freshman of the year for Nicholls State University, but he was a D2 freshman of the year, and it didn't stop there. Now he's a business owner and an investor in Terrebonne Parish because he had a coach that believed in him and someone that saw what he could bring to the table. And so that is what we just entered into when we hired this man as our 15th head coach. And so for that, I just wanted to put it out there, would they get in some of that Bayou water?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for sharing that story. Thank you.
And then also I contacted our athletic department and I talked to Coach Banks and I said, listen, our Alumni Association is doing a revamping, and there's something that's been repeated over and over and over between Terrebonne, Assumption, and Lafourche Parish. And so, President Shields, I need you to know just how committed this group is. He's bringing 10 coaches to Terrebonne Parish next Saturday. And then Mr. Dr. Ammons, I tried to get you a golf game scheduled to get you to come as well, but Suno is bringing their coaches to Homa as well. And we were working on getting Ellendale for you so I could give you a reason to come, but they've combined. And so we've taken students from 8th through 12th grade that will probably never have an opportunity to leave Homa except by their talents, right? And it's not a recruiting event. They're going to actually be able to just meet and greet the coaches. And then we're looking at their high school transcripts and reviewing them. And those that are in 11th and 12th grade that need help with ACT scores, we're going to provide that free of charge for them to prepare them to hopefully be Jaguars. But just the thought of having these 10 coaches, the athletic directors from both Suno and Southern, to come to Terrebonne Parish to meet with over 100 little boys and girls that just want hope, to me speaks volume of what we have here in our athletic department. And I don't care about a championship. That to me is championship status. And so, Coach Banks, thank you. And Mr. Dooley, I really thought it was going to be all about you because all these Kappas on this Alumni Association wanted to make it big, big, big till we found out our homeboy was coming home. So you got to share the spotlight a little bit. But I just want to say thank you. And I look forward to next Saturday. We look forward to next Saturday because some children just need just that push to see that I can do it. So Coach Banks, thank you. I appreciate you and your team.
Okay. Any other comment? Mr. Chairman, will you defer to Chairman, Mr. Fondell, and then we come back?
Thank you. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you.
I want to say something, and I mean it. I want you to win some championships. I mean that. But more importantly, I want you to build character. We don't know what these younger people are going through. I didn't experience social media bullying. I mean, my toughest challenge growing up was getting beat up by a 13-year-old girl. She was 13 though in the 4th grade. So that's the rest of the story. That's the story I told my dad, at least. He was the correct age. That was the correct grade. But anyway, the moral of the story, I was able to run. That being said, I want you to win some championships, but I want you to build character. These young people are going through so much, as I mentioned. They need father figures. They need big brothers. And we're interested in the wellness to complete and holistic approach of matriculating through the system. And so any value that you add to that, we're gonna support you. And the quality of life matters, right? And anytime you find successful programs, for the most part, you're going to find programs that bring character to athletic programs and that bring students to organized sports. And athletes are leaders, right? So we expect big things to flow into the classroom as well, not only on the court and out in the community. So we commend you. We're very proud of you. And I did make some calls. I called 2 of my friends in Morgan City. So that's 50% of the population of Orlando. and they spoke very, very highly of you. And one of my mentors still, and actually winningest coach in the state of Louisiana is at Peabody Magnet High School. Coach Smith said, "You got who?" He said, "Did you really?" He was very surprised and impressed. And he's already vowing to send athletes our way. So thank you. And you have our full support.
Thank you. That's
Thank
what
you.
Coach wants to hear.
Yeah.
Any other, Mr. Fondell?
Yeah,
Coach, don't get away. We're going to take a picture,
yeah,
but we're going to recognize.
just want to commend you and welcome you here to Jaguar Nation. I also want to say to Dr. Williams also, her efforts and being the president of her alumni association in her city bringing it back and also bringing a presence to her city has got me feeling some kind of way. And I would definitely like to challenge our athletic director to bring some folks to Lake Charles to meet with some of our athletes in that area, similar to what we're going to be doing with Dr. Williams also. So thank you again for all the work that y'all have done. Thank you again. Thank you.
Okay, and before we take the picture, we've got, we're gonna go now to item 6A. We've got another championship coach in the audience, the Western Division champions in football, Coach Eric Dooley. Would you come forward?
Well, good morning to the board and the chancellors. I didn't quite want to come up here and speak on the Western Division champs because I'll be back here next year, but it won't be Western Division champs. I think that the standard here is the Celebration Bowl champs, and I do understand. I heard our chairman say championships, and that's what Southern University is built on. You know, I learned that a long time ago when they say what does SWAC stand for. Southern wins another championship.
That's
So
right.
I'm in tune with that sound, but just elated. 1 year, it just seemed like it was last year. I was just standing here, and that time is flying by. But I can tell you this here, that the guys are at work in the classroom and on the field. So we look for some big things from Southern University football team. Go Jags.
All right.
All right. He started a valedictorian of the class, #1 quarterback among them. 4 of those students. 28. That says one of these things don't belong with the other. There.
We go now to item 7. Any other business for the athletic committee? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? It's been moved. Thank you. We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll dive straight into our facilities and properties committee. Attorney Shorty, will you call your committee to order?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Facilities and Property Committee is called to order. Mr. President, can I get a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Attorney Edwin Shorty, Chair.
Present.
Attorney Des Moines Rutledge, Vice Chair.
Here.
Mr. Paul Matthews.
Here.
Mrs. Ann Smith. Dr. Leon Tarver II.
Here.
Dr. Ronnie Whitfield.
Here.
Mr. Myron K. Lawson.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? It has been properly moved and seconded. Any public comments? Are there any public comments? Do we have any cards? All right. No public comments. We're going to move on to informational item 5A, a presentation by Move BR team on the scenic highway upgrades.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Dawson.
Thank you, sir. Chairman, Facility Chair Shorty, to President Shields, Chairman Lawson, to the Facility Committee, and also to this honorable board. I think Ms. Ann Smith, I'm sorry she's not here today because one of her questions was was concerning about what happened at the corner of Harding and Scenic. That was a student that was struck by an automobile and lost his life. There were some questions asked about where we were going on the project. I brought some initial comments about where we were headed with the projects. Mayor Broom has been very focused on doing something along those areas through the Move Baton Rouge project that they're moving forward. And today we have a presentation that's going to give a detailed update on where we are. So I have Mr. Fred Rayford, who is the Transportation and Drainage Director for the City of Baton Rouge in East Baton Rouge Parish. I've known Fred for years and years in my capacity in government and administration. So I'll have him to come up and introduce his team and go through the presentation.
Good morning.
Morning.
First off, let me just say, I want to thank Mr. Dawson allowing us the opportunity to come present the packet to you because I think it is important. You know, public safety is a real issue to Mayor Broom. She also asked us, said, have we had the opportunity to come talk to Southern to make sure that what they are seeing, what we're trying to accomplish. And I told her that we are set to do that today, and she was very happy about it. So number one, I would just say that I appreciate Mr. Chairman and members of the board to allow us to come and give you an update on this presentation. I first want to make a comment. I've been standing back here most of the morning, and I just wish we had more board meetings where I go to, like y'all's board meetings. I can just tell you, it's very positive. And I mean, I know there are times when things don't always work, but if you didn't get any positive feedback from this meeting, then you must be in a different world. But I wanted to mention that to this board because I think that's critical. And I know we all have difference of opinions and stuff, but it is very, very first class the way I look at it. I want to introduce my board. Number one, the people that I deal with Stantec is our program manager for this project, which is the MOVE-ER program, which is called the Swan Street Improvements. And the one thing that we are looking at is called pedestrian friendly, safe movements. I can't tell you that more than anything we can talk about because that's really what we want to try to redirect people to want to walk more, be more walkable areas, feel safe about walking in the areas, but also provide the safety network that's necessary to address that. I have Mr. Joe Keynes, who is with Stantec, who will be doing the presentation, and some of his staff. I also want to introduce Ms. Cindy Pennington, who is my Chief Traffic Engineer for East Baton Rouge Parish. We work very closely together, you know, and our number one goal is to try to find ways to make it more pedestrian friendly for our people that need in the area. And there's a lot of things happening on Scenic, 19, and on Harding. And we're just part of this project that we're trying to accomplish. And I think you'll see some real positive aspects from that. Thank you. Joe?
Thank you, Fred. Good morning, board. I'm going to present to you the Scenic Highway Corridor Enhancements Project. My name is Joseph Keynes. As Fred mentioned, I'm one of the deputy program managers for the enhancement program. Okay, Scenic Highway improvements. As you guys know, Scenic Highway is a 4-lane roadway out there with sidewalks that hasn't had much TLC in recent years. As part of our project, one of the primary focuses, like Fred mentioned, is to enhance the corridor, and with a major focus on pedestrians and mobility for the project. This is kind of hard to make out, but this is basically just a section of Scenic Highway itself. What we plan to do is reduce the existing lane widths so that we can make more room for wider sidewalks and offer an opportunity for landscaping and even some drainage improvements. So the arrows kind of represent the direction of travel. The right side is northbound, left side is southbound. This is an overview of the corridor. The project limits are basically between Harding Boulevard and Swan Avenue. We'll talk a little bit about some of the improvements out there today. I mentioned the median that is out there. What we're planning to do is implement what
in technical terms, it's called access management improvements, but what it means is basically limiting some of the motion movements at the different intersections along the route. Another important feature that we're going to add, because of these median improvements, it's going to inhibit vehicles from crossing from one side of the road to the other. However, we do acknowledge that the pedestrians that are in the area, there's a lot of walking activity that happens out there today. And what we're planning to do is near Fairchild Street, add what we call a mid-block crossing so people can get across the road safely. In addition to this, this is an example of what the pedestrian improvement looks like for the mid-block crossing. It'll basically be a signalized crossing. We're working with the state agency DOTD to get this approved and implemented as part of the project. As far as the vehicle motions, this is basically what's going to end up happening out there today. As you guys know, the median openings allow you to come from Curtis Street or Fairchild or Snipe Street and take a left out. With these access management improvements, they are going to restrict the left out from those roads, and they'll basically turn them into a through and a right for each motion. So, in order to take the left, you'll end up having to go into the median and make a U-turn instead. So these are just the different motions, the movements at Fairchild. At Snipe Street, because it's so close to the signal, instead of people making a left turn at a U-turn location, instead they would just make a block and get back to Fairchild. This is all in the northbound direction, by the way. In the southbound direction, this is how the access will be restricted. And all those arrows, I'm moving kind of fast. If I'm moving too fast, you guys let me know, I'll back up. But these are the motions that you'll be able to take as you're traveling southbound on Scenic. This is a zoom in of Swan Avenue. As you guys know, there's some challenges there with the railroad. That railroad, when it comes, it's a very slow movement. And on top of that, to complicate the issue, there's several different intersections, and it's kind of a unique configuration. I do want to talk a little bit about the access to Southern University and how we're proposing to modify it. Out there today, if you were headed northbound on Scenic, if you just turn right from Harding onto Scenic and you were headed northbound, you would have to take a left and find your gap to kind of get across the southbound traffic and onto Swan. What we're proposing is a modification to that left turn, where instead of turning left directly from Scenic, you would take a right and then a quick left that will be signalized. All of the signals at this intersection will be coordinated from a traffic and railroad standpoint, so that when the railroad comes, there's also safety features associated with that. These are the other motions. Every other movement is going to be the same, with the exception of if you were headed westbound on Swan, you would not be able to continue through across the railroad track. You would be forced to take a right. However, there are other roads. The local roadway network is connected all throughout this area. So however you need to get across to go southbound on Scenic, that opportunity is there for you. But the other motions stay pretty much exactly the same. This one is also restricted. If you were headed from campus eastbound on Swan, you would have to take a left or a right. You will no longer be allowed to go through. And that all of these improvements are intended to increase safety at this intersection, as well as improve traffic flow. From a pedestrian standpoint, as you guys know, there's sidewalks that kind of cut across the railroad here. What we're proposing is to basically have the pedestrians run around the intersection instead of interacting with the railroad too many times. We've worked with CPEX and worked with them to better understand what they need. We have knowledge of the Scotlandville neighborhood plan, some of the other plans that's happening kind of north of the railroad right here in this plaza area. And that improvement is incorporated into the design. Also, the railroad, we've been working with them, mentioned that before. They have plans for safety improvements at the railroad. As you know, today, there are no railroad gates out there. So from a safety standpoint, the railroad intends to add gates to prohibit illegal moves as a railroad event is happening. This is over at Harding, and this is the area where, you know, we had the unfortunate pedestrian fatality. However, I do want to highlight that there are going to be pedestrian improvements at this intersection. There will be pedestrian signals for people to cross the street more safely. Traffic will have to stop in order for them to cross. But all of the same movements are still being provided. And the new movement that's kind of in blue instead of the orange arrows is a new right turn lane. We're trying to fit as much of a right turn lane in there as we can. From a project budget perspective, it was going to be a little prohibitive to back the right turn lane up onto the bridge or the hump. But we are providing a right turn coming out of campus to be able to turn southbound onto Scenic. And then, of course, the pedestrian movements, again, we will be adding pedestrian signals. I mentioned earlier, there's going to be some drainage improvements. We do know that there's some flooding whenever you have significant rain events. It won't be wide scale, but we are looking at the drainage improvements in this area. From an overview, the estimated cost of construction is around $5.5 million. And right now we're kind of in the early preliminary design phase. We're hoping to finish that up. We're working with DOTD to get some final approvals. And then what we hope to do is have a public meeting that will be held more than likely at the Scotlandville Library just down the street. We will then move into final design. That should take about a year. We're going to push as much as we can to get that expedited, but that's the plan right now. And then hopefully construction beginning around 2025. If the design is expedited, we can hopefully get it into 2024, but that is the plan right now. So it's a little conservative. And that is the presentation. I'll pause for any questions.
Thank you for that very thorough proposal.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Dawson. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to again thank Mr. Rayford and his team for being here. They spoke about drainage. You know, we had some drainage we were concerned about around the baseball field. I've met with Mr. Rayford on several occasions there, and we're working through some plans there as well. So they have been a good partner with working with us to help to resolve those issues. So again, I want to thank them for their time and from them being here. The next thing we want to talk about, I know they had a routine maintenance aspect on the agenda, and I want to discuss about what we're doing with our deferred maintenance. Let me just say, first of all, that last year we were awarded $7 million for deferred maintenance for the university system. I mean, I'm not talking about for one campus, for the university system. At times, all the money was not encumbered in some fashion, but I'm glad to say that all of our money has been encumbered, and we're working through projects. I met with Board of Regents this week, last week. The meetings kind of come together, but we talked about some possibility of some additional dollars that, because of some issues with some projects, not on our part, but DOT having with some contractors, we may have some additional money to put towards some other projects. And we're looking at some other deferred maintenance issues that we can put those dollars to. So that is definitely moving forward, and is moving forward very, very quickly. We look forward to what's going to happen on the upcoming session with deferred maintenance. Right now, I think that we may be pretty close to what we got last year, or as far as all over higher ed, maybe even a little less, but I'm hoping that there's some things that's going to change there that give us more money toward deferred maintenance project. Every single campus has deferred maintenance projects that are ongoing right now. In fact, I think that was the meeting this morning at the swine and poultry building. We had that. I'm working with Chancellor Peening on some things in Shreveport. We have an HVAC project going on there. This building is going to be refaced. We have a project now that's about $2.something million that's put on this building. All the people are talking about the leaks in the windows. Well, that's going to be taken care of. As also with the brick situation that we have with some of the lattice and support structure corroding, that's going to be handled as well. So again, we're focused on making sure money that we have basically have projects and they're encumbered moving forward. Yes, sir.
For those projects,
that we have that are obviously not through the foundation, but are coming through FPNC.
Yes.
To what degree do we have our own inspectors who can report or have a reporting requirement to us to let us know whether or not the facilities that are turned over to us or that the contractors that are reporting directly to the state have completed their job? And I can kind of give you a little bit of where I'm going with this. I've had a couple of meetings at some SUNO buildings that are pretty brand new, but those facilities have deficiencies in the buildings that they should not have, especially because of the newness of the buildings. And I'm wondering, once the state says, hey, this building's ready for occupancy, all of the things on your punch list is done, do we have a third party? And if we don't, I think we should have a third party that comes in and says, look, this thing is not up to code. This thing is not complete like it should be. So they may be ready to turn over a building to us. And we say, nah, there's some issues with that.
Yes, sir. And I am in complete agreement with you about having the ability to evaluate the conditions of building before they're accepted. I can tell you that I have not accepted several projects so far because of some concerns that I've had with them. We do not have a staff in place right now that kind of runs through that particular process. Now we're working on it. And I think that we have a solution that we're going to be able to get, even if it's on contractual, consultant help, to make sure that we look at those things. We are moving forward. But your point is well taken. I visited SUNO early on and was party to some issues they had in a brand new auditorium. So and that is under litigation right now because we did not accept with some of the things that were being proposed. So, but the overall responsibility in doing that is FPNC. It is that responsibility of the architect. It is their responsibility to manage the project and make sure that they are delivering those projects based upon the specifications and design that were submitted. But again, I feel that it's important that we have eyes on projects as well.
I'm curious if I'm gonna come to you, Mr. Fondell. I'm curious if other educational institutions do that. I'd like to know what what LSU does, and what some of the other schools do. Do they hire third parties, Mr. Fondell?
My question is well, first of all, I want to say thank you for bringing a team together and literally hearing the importance of the crosswalk. It's a matter of lives, students, and we're speaking. If Ms. Smith would be here right now, I know she would be commending you for this. And in her absence, I would like to do so for her, because she brought it up because we've had loss of life at that location. And you've heard us and you are addressing it to make sure that no one else has to go through those challenges that we face. My question is with regards, I know that the new business school is going to be built where the police station is going to be at, and TT Atlanta is going to remain there.
Yes, sir.
Are y'all working to find a location for the new police station that will be coming up?
Yes, sir. In fact, you're going to see a rendering of that police station and a little later in this report.
Okay.
So that project is moving forward, and it was a HERF project and I think that probably sometime maybe July, August, we may be breaking ground on that project. So
absolutely.
So you'll see that happening pretty soon.
Well, and my other question is with regards to the Gateway project, and I probably should have mentioned it whenever you were talking about the crosswalk. Is that a part of the delay with the Gateway project?
Yeah, the Gateway coming across on Harding. Initially, the actual proposal or the application to DOTD to place those big columns in that area was denied. So right now we have been working with CPEX and working with some of the people in Baton Rouge about how we can have another gateway designed or located in an area that would be sufficient. So we're working through that.
And I think I've heard that on that side of the bridge, but how would it be on this side of the bridge?
That's exactly what we're looking at.
Okay. All right. That was one of my questions also. So again, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. And the last question, you're working on some historic projects, some large projects.
Yes, sir.
Do you have enough people surrounding you to help to maintain those things?
No, not yet, but we
Okay,
get
if you could say what type of needs would you have to make sure that you're successful
Sure.
in managing these processes? I heard Chairman Shorty a second ago mentioning about having people in place, but I want to make sure, because you're operating at a high level with numbers that this university has never seen before,
Yes.
and making sure that you have a staff around you that can, help you in managing all of this. And
Okay.
while you have our full attention here,
Sure.
could you
Well,
speak on
a couple
that?
of things. I think President Shield has addressed it a couple of times, and that he is understanding that this group needs bandwidth in order to continue doing what we're doing. And so he's supported making sure that we're looking at how do we get additional bandwidth. But I've also talked with my boss, and we're looking at the possibility of coming up with some initial consultation contracts that allow us to bring in seasoned expertise by the drink, meaning that I give them an assignment to do this. They go look at that. They give us a report to make sure we have a good vantage point on what's going on. Those are the things that we're doing now, because the projects that we deal with are not just projects that we see in capital outlay in the big bills. We got a bunch of deferred maintenance projects. We have a bunch of projects that may be HERB funded. We got a bunch of projects that are self-generated funds funded. So we got a lot of things that we're continuing to have to juggle through. But I do think that we have a plan that's gonna satisfy that we're working through right now.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Fondale. Mr. Gillum.
Shorty, you alluded to the fact a few minutes ago in terms of authority and responsibility on these several units within the system. Now, Ken hasn't had this discussion with me, but I'm sensing there must be a degree of frustration in terms of authority and supervision at the various local levels. We had this challenge with the internal auditor a few years ago. And of course, we adjusted that. And we had Mr. Brian Adams, who actually supervised and had authority for dealing with the internal auditors on the various units. This came up at our retreat in Shreveport last month. The idea is that on some of these campuses, and you talk about the punch key operation, maybe we need to assess the idea that as a systems officer, and as I appreciate it, Mr. Dawson, you are a systems officer.
Yes, sir.
In some cases, that authority to do what he's talking about at this broader level does not transcend down to the campus levels. In other words, for lack of a better words, these are just kind of random actors, if you will, to some degree in terms of taking care of something. Mr. Dawson, I believe, has been on the job less than a year, or about a year.
A little over a year now.
A little over a year.
Yes, sir.
We've seen a kind of a transposing of getting things done. HB2, everything we've asked for in HB2 is in there, as I appreciated, Ken, in this current legislative session, as was
Also,
the last
right.
time around. That might be something, Mr. Chairman, we need to consider in terms of what that relationship is with the various units, SUNO, Shreveport, SUBR.
I think that's definitely something, Mr. Gillum, that we need to have a discussion with the president about, and we need to look at. And I'm glad Mr. Gillum asked the question, because it kind of brings me to one of my little things you and I always talk about, and I want to make sure I bring it up since we're at a board meeting, and we've got our chancellors here. As we get funding for projects on facilities, one of the pet peeves that you may get from my friends up in North Louisiana and from my folks down in New Orleans is that we want to make sure that we are spreading business opportunities to those folks in those areas. And as money comes down for facilities, we want to make sure that that you find contractors in those local areas who can work on these universities. I love Baton Rouge, but Baton Rouge is the only place that has contractors. So there are Southern alum in Shreveport and up in North Louisiana, and there are Southern alum in the Metro New Orleans area who can do a lot of this work. Make sure we are spreading this work around, because when you come to folks later and you're saying, hey, I want you to be involved, I want you to support whatever, buy tickets to basketball games, make sure that we are giving as alumni
And they go, well, man, you don't give any work to anybody. And that is an important thing to make sure that you're doing.
Sure.
And you've always been very responsive when we had that conversation, but I thought it was important for me to say that in front of everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Now we've got the facility planning project updates.
Yes, sir. Before I show the highlight, which I think would be the conceptual drawings, HB2 was actually released, and I'm sure that everybody here wants to understand how we stand and what we look at for HB2. And I think it's important that this body understands that as well, because if there's a little more work that has to be done to make sure that things stay in the bill and that additional fund is needed in the bill, then you will understand and have that opportunity. I think that we have an incredible talent that with Southern University that helps us in this particular effort. We have the person that used to develop HB2 for Division of Administration and FP&C, who's now works for the university. And I can tell you that she's been invaluable to me and that in my office in making sure that we understood, we understand, and that we push things forward. Before she stands up, I want to say one thing. We had a meeting with the Director of Facility Planning. And basically, she led the meeting. I mean, she had the information. She was able to present the information. She was able to do the things that put Southern University in the best position to have these projects move forward. So with that, the chart that you normally have, that you have in your packet that I normally send out, Ms. Simone Whitmore is going to go over that and then even look at that as it applies to HB2 and what we need to do to move forward. So, Ms. Simone? Yeah, next PowerPoint. Yeah, that's not okay.
Good morning. Ken asked me to come up here and try to explain a little bit of HB2. As he mentioned, I developed HB2 for 13 years when I was with the Division of Administration. I kind of landed in that position because I came to facility planning as a project manager. And the first thing I wanted to know was, where's the money? What's my budget? And they start talking to me about legislative approval and priority 5. And as I'm sure most of you have heard by now, priority 5 isn't actually cash. So it gets to be really hard to build something if you don't actually have cash. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, how do you keep the projects moving? And so that's kind of what I want to talk to you about this morning, because what you see in HB2 doesn't always tell you what's going to happen with the project. And that's what we need to know. And that's what we need to be prepared to talk to our delegation about when we need help. So as Ken mentioned, going over our tracking system, our goal was to keep everything moving. We have probably more projects in the system and even on the Southern University Baton Rouge campus than we've had in a long time. And I know that because I was the one trying to push money towards Southern on the other end when we received the request. And so the question is, how do we keep those projects moving? So we submitted capital outlay request asking for the money, but it's important for everybody to understand that when they're balancing the money, they only want to give us what we can spend. So when we ask for the money, we're also having to understand how much we can spend that year. And so, for example, the ravine, the bluff, the riverbank stabilization. That one's been kind of in flux for a long time because it's going to be a lot of money to do both the ravine and the bluff. They don't know what we can spend. There was no additional appropriation for it. Now we are seeking infrastructure dollars for that. And that will probably, hopefully, if we can get some support from our US delegation, be moving, but it's not shown as moving in HB2. Our STEM building. Our STEM building does show $12 million of priority 5 moving to priority 1. That is cash. That will get us into construction. And that's important because if we don't get to construction, if we're not using the money, then there's always a potential to delay a project. So you always want to show a commitment of those dollars. However, it's important to also understand that we will be positioned to start construction at the end of the session. It won't be a commitment that we're going to construction because we have a large priority 5 and they only moved up some of it. And so there is $200 million in higher ed projects in that position, including ours. So what all of those projects collectively are asking is that this administration would be making that kind of commitment for the next administration. So we're going to have to work with our legislators and make sure that everybody makes a voice with the governor and the administration to try to make sure that we get those commitments. So our STEM building is positioned to move to construction. And because we have a CMAR, there's every reason to believe that that will move to construction as soon as we get those designs where they need to be. Our Law Center library renovation also positioned to move to construction, not at the start of the year. They only moved up about $5 million. So that would mean that we wouldn't go to construction probably until third quarter of the fiscal year. Now, it's important that we do everything we can to break ground by the end of December so that the project is started before the transition of the administration. So anything we can do to make sure those designs are finished, that we're ready to bid. I know Ken's actively looking at that and tracking that, because if we can get to construction, break ground before December, they can't change their minds about our project. And also it makes us more competitive than the rest of the $200 million that will want those kinds of commitments. Our School of Business, that one we'll need some help with. They did not move up any priority 5, therefore it would not be ready to go to construction. It would not be positioned to go to construction when we finish that design, and we're expecting that design to be finished by the end of this calendar year. Our nursing school, J.K. Haynes Nursing School renovation, that one is positioned that we can move ahead with design. As you'll recall, we have $1 million in dollars that were given to us in last year's surplus. I know Ken's working on trying to get a contract in place to start that design. And so again, we would be ready to move to construction when we finish, but it would require a priority 5 commitment. There's $10 million in priority 5. They did give us that. That one is important because we also have a match. We have a $10 million match. So that one positions us to have a stronger argument and be more competitive. Stewart Hall is an air conditioning project, which is very important in Louisiana for our students and for everyone else. They did give us, actually, they gave us surplus dollars to make sure that we can start construction on that. And those dollars should be available July 1. It's not like bond money where we have to wait for lines of credit. So hopefully we can push that AC project as quickly as we can. The university cafeteria at Suno, which was one where they appropriated maybe about half the money of what we thought we needed. We did get a priority 5 for an additional $5 million. That will allow us to proceed now with design. We had enough cash for design already. We were just waiting to be able to design the size cafeteria that Dr. Ammons felt like we needed. So we do have that. Again, all of this is an original HB2, which has the potential to be changed before it's actually signed by the governor. So we have to be a little bit cautious, but that one's positioned well, that the design would take the rest of the year. And then we would again be looking to get the P5 moved up. There is ADA compliant restrooms. They gave us priority 2, which would actually be cash that we could spend, but we won't see lines of credit on those until potentially probably September, October timeframe. So again, we will need help to have support to make sure we're on that line of credit list. What's a little, I guess, delicate about that one is that the capacity for new cash this year is $523 million. And out of that has to be the P5 to P1 and also the P2. The P5 to P1 is already $453 million. So it leaves only $70 million for additional P2. And of that P2, we want 8 million of the 70 million. Now they can over appropriate that P2. They can add another 100 million in P2. And then we would be competing against everything in that P2. So we'll have to make sure that we are very diligent in watching what's going on and making sure that we're ready to go on that. Campus lighting outgrades, we asked for new money at Suno. We had $1 million, we asked for another $1 million. We did not get appropriated that other $1 million, but I think the current plan is to move forward with spending the first $1 million as we continue to ask for the second $1 million and try to get that one to go. Now at SUSLA, we have 2 projects that are in design. They will not complete design until March of 2024. So it wasn't surprising that they didn't give us any cash for those because they wouldn't try to go to construction at the end of the fiscal year. So we're going to have to push those to move forward. We also have the Lewis Collier Science Building renovation that we had some support for doing a full renovation of the building as opposed to some sort of annex building that we were trying to just get some temporary, well, not temporary, but labs to get that function back. We did get about $15 million in P5 for that. The problem is we didn't get any cash. So we don't have enough money to design. So that's something that we would need help with. And then the other thing that is an existing project is the mega shelter, which is supposed to have about $18 million of money from GOSEP through FEMA. And so we've been kind of, I think Ken's been reporting month after month on that kind of holding pattern where we're waiting for FEMA approval. And I think the way that they've left us positioned in HB2 is the expectation that we would spend the FEMA money first. The only thing that would be a challenge about that is quite often because it's reimbursement, you need seed money. So we may need a couple $1 million in seed money to be able to pay the bills before we get the reimbursements. But overall, our existing projects fared very well in terms of continuing to move, with the exception of needing to get some help on our School of Business and the Lewis Collier just to get it into design. As for the new requests that we had 13 new projects. I think the highest priority, as we all know, was the new Southern Lab complex. They did put that in position that we would be able to complete design in the fiscal year if we receive that priority 2. It has priority 2 of $2 million and a priority 5 of $53 million. They also included the new water loops for Susla, which are in desperate need of replacement. They included the chilled water loop for the Baton Rouge campus. All of these are included with monies for design to get the design completed in the next fiscal year and then move forward to construction, or hopefully move forward to construction after that. We have 2 other projects that were included, the Law Center Career Learning Center and the SUNO new classroom building. They're both about $15 million. However, they are only P5. P5 only projects rarely get lines of credit because the understanding is that you can't spend P5, therefore the project won't advance. So these appropriations give us a fighting chance if we can get an amendment that gives us some level of cash to design, or if for some reason we were able to come up with our own design money. If we were able to have our own design money, then we could show that we do have an existing project. And that's similar to what we're having to do with getting the nursing school here going. We had an appropriation of $1 million that we can use for design now, as opposed to waiting for an appropriation that comes through HB2. So there were several other projects, obviously 8 other projects that did not make it into HB2. There is an ag project that is in HB2, but it's shown as a self-funded project and not as a general obligation bond project that's being funded by the state. So that one would also be one that would need help to move forward. So with that, that's my very quick overview of where we're positioned in HB2, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No questions? That's how thorough you were. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I would just like to echo the sentiment of having funds for design in our position. We show the legislature that she has skin in the game with design, and to show that it's shovel ready, then we're far more likely to get it from priority 5 to priority 2, priority 1. And I appreciate the fact that that can be a risk, because sometimes we're concerned about having designs and then it sits on the shelf. But the legislature wants to see that we're ready, and they can trust us if we have those projects ready with the design. So I would just encourage the board that we move forward in those ways to get those designs done. And I have full faith in our leader here when it comes to facility and plannings and what he's doing and putting the priorities together. And so I want to thank the entire team. And ma'am, thank you for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Anything else? Thank you. And I just want to say, a lot of the scheduling and the contracts for any designer or contractor is not held by the university. It's held by FP&C. So one of the things that we do, and we do quite a bit of, is constantly calling, constantly managing, and constantly trying to push these things forward on our behalf. But the overall control is with them. But I do know that they have been working with us because they hear from our office quite often on the projects. Okay. So just my last thing, I know this is taking a long time, but at least we're talking about projects, right? We're talking about some things that's moving the university forward. So this just real quick, these are some of the capital improvement projects, some of the rendering. This is the new STEM building, and this is kind of a conceptual rendering of the new STEM building that we're in the process of moving forward with. It just gives you an idea of where we are, as Ms. Whitmore said, that this is a CMAR project. The CMAR contract has been selected, so they're moving forward to making that happen. And I have to tell Mr. Fondell, I thought we had a rendering of the police station, but we don't. But the police station will be located as you're going past T-Tail Lane, heading back toward the dorms, that when that road splits, the police station is going to be right there, right in front of the intramural center. And that project should be coming up pretty soon. The School of Business and Accountancy, this is something that was shown by the business department even when they had an event recently. You see the buildings are similar in their design because they're kind of going to be speaking to each other. They're sister buildings of each other. So this will be right across the street from the STEM building. So it's going to be incredibly nice. I don't know if I have if I point in this area here, I don't know if you can see it. But anyway, there will be a ticker tape that's going to be going across the front of the building business. It's going to be behind the glass, but it's going to be large enough that when you walk up to it, you can tell that this is business. Okay. It speaks business. So I mean, we are real proud about that design and the things that are moving forward. Now, this is the Global Innovation and Welcome Center. This is going to be on Harding. It's going to be one of the first buildings that you're going to see coming to campus. This is like the phase 1 piece of this. That will be a phase 2 and phase 3 part of this particular building. But this is basically, it's going to be an area where there's a large auditorium. Also, we're going to have our resources that's be giving out passes to maneuver around the campus, travel around the campus. But it's a real nice. I'm sorry to go that fast. A real nice look. So we're looking forward to that particular process. It is moving forward quickly, and hopefully we may see some groundbreaking on that before the end of the year as well. The T.S. Harris Learning Lobby is another project. When I got here, Mr. Kenneth Huey Lawson basically said that the students were standing out in the weather, and what can we do to create a space that when they're registering, they don't have to do so. So this particular learning lobby would allow the students to be inside a conditioned building while they're going through registration. There'll be also areas there that if they have some homework to do, they can study as well. It's going to be a very nice project. That project is also moving very quickly, and hopefully we have some groundbreaking on that as well during this particular year. So I think that's it. And that concludes my report.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dawson, and then thank the mayor's office for sending her folks and doing such a thorough presentation as well. Is there any other business? Any other business? And I will raise something as other business. The Bernhardt deal, and I haven't heard anything about it in more than a year. And I'd like to know where we are with that. And at some point when the board acts and private industry is waiting on us to make a move, we've got to move somewhat expeditiously. So where are we with that?
So when we first asked for approval for Bernhardt, at the time, the interest rates were favorable for us to move forward on that particular transaction. A large key driver was that we were actually going to net a return as opposed to taking some prepaid rent on the front end. Shortly after that, the interest rates started going sky high on us, and it did not make the project feasible at that time to execute upon. Since that time, I've re-engaged Bernhardt in the last 2 months to revisit the project, also including a SUNO scope of work that I think you had initially asked about some time ago. Bernhardt went back to the drawing board. They haven't gotten back with me. In addition to that, I also understood that we may have an application or two in with Public Service Commission, also involving the lighting piece, which we'll need to factor into the Bernhardt transaction as well. But in any event, the larger portion of the delay was that what gains we could have made was lost by the interest rate continually to trick up from the time that we first asked for approval.
Okay. I would like to get a continuing update on that since we approved it, and just give us an update. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn? It has been properly moved and seconded. Facilities and Property Committee is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ask now that the Chair of the Finance Committee, Dr. Orlando Williams, call her committee to order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Roll call, please, Mr. President.
Dr. Orlando Williams, Chair.
Present.
Mrs. Ann Smith, Vice Chair. Mr. Sam Gilliam, Miss Christy Reeves, Attorney Des Moines Rutledge,
Here.
Dr. Leon Tarver II,
Here.
Mr. Myron K. Lawson.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. I will accept the motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Ms. Reeves, second by Mr. Gilliam. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Public comments? Seeing none. Item 5, informational items. Mr. Gilliam?
Would like to draw attention, if you would. And Mr. President, if I would merely direct this to Mac, if you would. We're in the fourth quarter of the year, and we're looking at some of the interim reports. For instance, and I'll direct your attention, committee and board members, if you will. I'm referencing page 48 of the packet, if you will. I'm noting in there, Mac, well, I'll pose 3 questions and let you answer them all at once. Fair enough?
Sure.
Okay, for instance, I note, it's in the small print, of course, on page 48. It says we're still using $2.4 million in HERF funds to balance the SUBR budget. Think about, because how you want to give us a clarification on that, because again, it doesn't appear to be expedient that we would be using one-time monies for recurring costs. But give us an explanation, if you would. Referencing page 50. Again, this is Suno, by the way, the campus. And of course, I think we're falling short there roughly about $200,000, 232 or somewhere. And if you might give us the clarification or the campuses. And Sussler on page 51. And again, we're looking at basically the same thing, a tuition, self-generating is what it's called. And I won't even call it figure out, because I think I've gotten the explanation that it revolves around the authorization that we made to the Board of Regents and they subsequently approved. But Mac, would you my concern is this, we're in the third quarter. I wouldn't probably pose this concern if we were talking about the second or third quarter, but we only have 2 more months to rectify these situations. A little clarification, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair and other members of the board. The first question that you asked was the one for the Baton Rouge campus. And based on the small print that you talked about, it's basically saying that the Baton Rouge campus is using $2.4 million in one-time funds. Now, the concern about that is that, and we've said it before, that you should not use one-time funds to balance your budget, because when the COVID funds are no longer available, then you're going to have to in fact, you have no choice. If that revenue continues, either cut your budget or increase revenues. So at this time, Baton Rouge is still carrying $2.4 million. I am in the process now of looking at the Baton Rouge campus in detail to see, what would need to be done in order to balance this budget with this 2.4. 2.4, we will be able to come up with the 2.4. But more importantly, is what happens next year when COVID is no longer available. And that's one of the real concerns that we have. And I'm sure that everybody should have that concern in terms of all campuses. Because if you are using COVID funds and they're not available anymore, it could be an issue, because not only you actually use those funds in several ways. One can be lost revenues. If your enrollment drop, then that means that based on the COVID dollars that we had, we were able to fill the gap. So it means also that the second one is that not only if your enrollment drop, if we spend COVID funds, we're able to generate indirect costs. That's also a part of your general operating budget. If you have no COVID funds, that means that you're gonna have to be able to fill that gap because it's no longer available. And the third concern is that if you are propping up, and that's for lack of a better term, if you are propping up your enrollment with giving COVID funds to students,
when those funds are no longer available, there's a possibility that your enrollment could very well drop. I've said that to the CFOs and I've said it here before, that we have to make certain that those dollars are being used only for one-time expenditures. Otherwise, you will have some severe problems going forward. As to SUNO.
Let's stay right there for a moment. I remember when I first came back on this board, I think it was 2019, we had the same situation in New Orleans. And we remember the situation there that we didn't address. It appears as though it's expedient to us right now. We have to make some hard decisions somewhere. It's just that simple. I'll leave it at that. You go on. You were going to give an explanation on SUNO, I believe.
Right. You asked the question about our SUNO. And on the SUNO campus, they had a shortfall of $209,000 in tuition. But what they have been able to do is to reduce other line items of expenditures that which will offset that 200,000, and that will not cause them a problem. But my suggestion is that for all the campuses, they would really need to look at in more detail what one-time expenditures are being used and make certain that when we go into next fiscal year, we can take care of that.
In Dr. Hammond's cases, I appreciate it. He took the position of simply making some hard decisions.
That's correct.
And he said to the campus, we got to live with it. I think we got to do that across the board. Go ahead, I didn't mean to cut you off.
For the Shreveport campus, again, they have a shortfall in out-of-state fees. If you notice, it's not in their tuition and fees and in those areas. In this case, when you have other revenue, in many cases, you bring in revenues, you exceed the amount of revenue you actually need to balance your budget. In case you want to, as you go through the year, if your expenditures increase, you have some leeway. In this case here, all they're doing is that even though they have a shortfall in other revenue, what they're saying to us is that they actually have gone in and cut expenditures in order to come in. If you notice, if you look down at salaries, their salaries are down by $734,000. And our benefits, anytime your salaries go down, your benefits should go down, and it did. So they've made provisions and cut expenditures to make certain that they can still go ahead and balance their budget. I asked the question to each campus, whether you're able to, are you using one-time dollars? And if you recall, Chair, Mr. Lawson, and you, Mr. Gillum, we asked for a plan as to how they were coming in, because a couple of schools had problems. We had talked to Baton Rouge and with the Shreveport campus, and they provided us with the plan. And those are the plans that really it's going to have to materialize. Otherwise, we're going to have to make some adjustments.
That's it. All right, Mr. Fondell.
Mr. McClinton, I've heard you explain to Mr. Gillum with regards to how to kind of solve these issues. And I think one end of it is you're talking about making the necessary budget cuts that are needed. If you would, the other end of it would be an increasement in enrollment. If you could, for maybe some of the newer members that may be here, kind of give us an idea as to how much 100 students additional enrollment or 200 students additional enrollment, is that a way to kind of offset the COVID dollars that are going to be due to expire? And if so, in your opinion, how many more students at either our campus or the other campus would be needed to kind of cover that imbalance that you're talking about?
Right. You're absolutely right. Increased enrollment, automatically you're going to end up with increased revenue. I don't have the numbers here in terms of by campus, what it would do. I can provide it and share it with the board and have it sent out to you what 100 students would do. But that's one way of doing it. In fact, a good example of that is the law school. The law school enrollment went up, and they actually were able to do a lot of things that they were not able to do prior to that. So I think that's applicable to all the campuses. You know, if you can increase your enrollment, that would be better than having to reduce your budget.
Yeah, I can remember it being brought up here at one of the board meetings that, and this is old data, that 100 to 200 students would represent an increase of almost $1 million in additional revenue. Is that pretty?
Yeah, if you're looking, it depends on the campus.
It depends on the campus.
Because the amount that they're charging for tuition differs. So if you're looking at Baton Rouge, that's probably about right.
Okay.
But the tuition costs that the other campuses are lower, other than the law center, and the law center is higher than the Baton Rouge campus.
So perhaps 400 students would be the equivalent of being able to cover the lack of funds that may be expiring in a year and increasing enrollment. As such, was that somewhat consistent, or a little bit more, a little bit less, based on the information for this campus, not the other campuses?
Right. What I would say to that is that we would need to look at the bottom line and determine what the if there is a shortfall, which hopefully we won't have that problem. But if there is a shortfall, you can go in and determine that. At the beginning of the year, though, it's easy to project that I'm going to increase my enrollment by 200 students. The key to it is the reality of it. You can't build a budget based on anticipation.
Okay.
So I'm saying that normally you look at your past trend, you adjust for what you've done in terms of COVID funds, then you come out with a realistic projection in terms of what your enrollment actually should be.
And part of the reason
what your tuition should be.
I wanted to bring it up because I was hearing the necessary side of budget cuts, but there is somewhat of a solution to it when an effort is put together to push toward that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there any other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Gillian, second by Ms. Reeves. All those in favor? We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Ask now the Vice Chair of Governors to call the committee to order in the absence of the chair. Mr. Vice Chair, running with them.
I'd like to call the Governors Committee to order. Can I get a roll call, Mr. President?
Absolutely. Reverend Dr. Samuel Tolbert, Chair. Dr. Ronnie Whitfield, Vice Chair.
Here.
Miss Nadia Foster. Miss Christy Reeves.
Here.
Attorney Edwin Shorty. Dr. Leon Tarver II. Myron K. Lawson.
Present.
Do we have a quorum?
Thank you for the roll call. I'd like to move to item 3, adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion for the adoption agenda? So moved by Christy Reeves. Properly moved and seconded. Are there any public comments pertaining to this agenda only? Governance Committee, any public comments? Hearing none, we will move to action item 5A. Request approval of the revised employees leave policy, Southern University System. The revised policy changes the definition of sick leave to leave for temporary illness and adds medical leave, which grants a longer leave for serious health conditions or serious family emergencies. Tracy? Excuse me, attorney.
Tracy's fine. Good morning.
Good morning.
This policy and procedures being brought to you to help us get a handle on trying to distinguish between sick leaves and medical leaves. Currently, we have 2 policies that this will impact. Number one, the medical leave, the leave procedure, that leave policy that's on the agenda today, as well as our EPAF policy that we approved a while back. On that policy, the EPAF policy, we approved that all of the long-term FMLA and related type leaves would not come to the board for approval, but would go through the chancellors. Currently, we don't have a process in which we can approve leaves to go through the chancellor for approval. So what I did was I distinguished between sick leave, medical leave, and then I've created a procedure for the system campuses to adopt that would allow them to incorporate a procedure to allow their employee to apply for medical leave, get approval from their supervisor, and take the approval level up to the chancellor. So that's what that do. And I probably will be bringing more back to try to get all of those leaves and those procedures approved by the board.
Was that you have?
Yeah, we're going to be incorporating forms through our dynamic forms that allow them to apply online.
Okay.
Okay.
A quick question. I'm late. And maybe the next meeting, I'd like to see something for the faculty and including the staff that deals with Wellness Day. Sometimes you have challenges and you need to press the reset button. And I would like us to consider, if possible, certainly in line with state laws and requirements, that we start looking at providing wellness days for our faculty, our staff, and I think the students. Certainly that will be probably another area that we need to talk to, and we'll have that area available for next week as well. But I want to make sure that we have as a focal point the wellness of our team, and that includes the faculty and the staff. So you can get something, I'd appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Okay, we will do.
And Chairman Lawson, just a comment, I will be addressing some of that in the Student Affairs Committee when we address the student mental health wellness update. But are there any other questions for Attorney Tracy? Anyone else? So hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve action item 5A, request approval for revised employee leave policy, Southern University System? So moved, probably been moved in second. Any second? All those in favor? It has been approved. Action item 5A is approved. Action item 5B, request approval of the medical leave procedures policy. A new procedure that will require all employees who have a serious health condition or a family member who has a serious health condition that will require a longer absence to apply for what we call FMLA or family medical leave. The procedure will require the employee to apply for FMLA if applicable, and if the employee has to remain on medical leave longer than their manager has approved, the employee will require to reapply to continue their medical leave. This procedure will be effective on May 1st, 2023. Any questions, Tracy? Any explanations? Or it's pretty well defined.
Yes, a follow-up. It's a part of, well, we have a leave policy that just has all the different leaves listed. And so now I'm bringing back those procedures that the campuses will need to implement to be able to make sure that the employees are following consistent policy procedures throughout the campuses.
Thank you. Any questions regarding action item 5B? You seem like you have one.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that, and I'm sure we did this, but that whatever we're doing comports with federal law. Okay.
Good question.
It just seems like this would be pretty standard. Okay. All right.
I think it's standard, but there's been some confusion on how folks apply for this and extended. There's been some issues, Ed, so we just want to have some clarity when it comes up to HR. Action item 5B, all those in favor, well, can I get a motion for acceptance of the?
So moved.
So moved, probably moved and seconded. Anyone second? Tracy, Christie. All those in favor say by aye. Any nays? Action 5B passes. Actions number 6, other business. Any other business? Seeing none, we will move for an adjournment. So moved by Christie, properly seconded by Ed Shorty. Governance Committee is now come to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair. Ask that the Chair of the Personnel Committee call his committee to order, Mr. Sam Gilliam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The Personnel Affairs Committee is hereby called to order. Mr. President, please give us a roll call.
Mr. Sam Gilliam, Chair.
Present.
Mrs. Christy Reeves, Vice Chair.
Here.
Attorney Jody Amity. Mrs. Azelle Dudley. Dr. Leon Tarver II. Dr. Orlando Williams. Mr. Myron K. Lawson.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next item of business is adoption of the agenda. What is your pleasure? It's been moved by, I believe, Dr. Talk. Second, Ms. Reeves. The agenda has been moved and has been seconded. Those in favor, please let it be known by sign of aye. No roll call. Those opposed, nay. The next item of business, number 4, calls for public comments. Dr. Lene, do we have any cards? Seeing no one approach, we have no public comments. We move to item number 5. We have action items here, and if it pleases the committee, might we go through these per unit? Unless the committee wants to progress otherwise.
I want
Yeah.
to, actually, we pulled 5D. I want to make a comment and add some
5D,
consideration to that
okay,
for the approval.
okay. In other words, am I getting on?
And I think you may have, do you have any comments on, yeah,
We'll wait till we get to D.
yeah.
Okay. So now we're doing the mixture.
I'm good with the rest in global.
Okay.
if you-
In
that's the
global,
wish to
okay,
say,
good.
yeah.
Okay, we have a motion for item action 5A through E. That would make it then. With item being considered separately. Those in favor, please let it be known by sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposes nay. Hearing none, these items are thus adopted. Okay, we go down to item number 5D. It is. This is a request for approval of equity salary increases. You will remember this item, as I appreciate it, was tabled and referred to. Do I need a correction here, Dr. Carver? I see your hand.
No, with an adjustment.
Would be, okay, the
Yeah.
motion's approved.
I'm gonna move approval of D, and add that any inequity that should occur in this category be resolved by both the chairman and president of the system.
Indeed, we have a motion. Did you get there, Dr. Durrell?
No.
He did not get all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think our
My
PA
motion
system is on.
is to approve D, proviso that any inequity that should exist in the will be resolved by the chairman of the board and the president of the system.
I have a second.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a second, please. Those in favor, let it be known by sign of aye. Opposes nay. Item 5D is thus approved.
May I say one thing, question discussion? We have a phenomenal group of folk that comprise of our faculty on all the campuses. I respect them, I always have. And I enjoy robust debate, I really do. That's how we grow. I'm not offended by it, I encourage it. And we learn things that we should learn. And we have an appreciation for our role.
Indeed.
I want to be clear that we're going to always take what faculty say seriously. We may not agree, but they're going to always have an ear with me. And I think majority of us feel the same way. And if anyone feels to the contrary, then I'm sorry about that. That's not the intent. And I intend to make sure that we afford every opportunity that our faculty and our faculty staff needs to have dialogue with us and make changes that make sense, that we do it. I just wanted to add that to the end of this section of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And indeed, Dr. Rel, we'd like to make that a part of the record, if you would, please. Before we go to item number E, I believe that's what it is here. And that's coming.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman? I can't hear you.
Sorry. We were moving on to item number, I believe it's E.
No,
Yeah,
no.
you gave a motion and we got an approval.
E.
E.
Yeah, D.
We're on E.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I thought
You made a
you said
motion, we
D.
got an approval on D. Okay.
My motion was on D.
Justin, no, are we clear?
Yes.
You gave us a motion on it.
On D.
Yes. And we got a second and a vote.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Real has it in the record.
Yeah.
All right. All right, we're going to the next item now. I know we get adjusted. Sometimes these are agenda, you get a minute, but I think from what I'm looking at is we're at E.
Yes.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. Observation, if you will, in going through the packet too. I noticed, and help me out here, counsel. I noticed an observation I'd like to bring to the board's attention. The private information in the dossier of all of the individuals who are applied for, submitted themselves for these positions a lot of their personal information in terms of their residential addresses, in terms of their private cell phones were there to be seen. Is there a consideration for, would we be in Board of Public Record by redacting some of those items? Thank you.
So I think it is our practice that you may see the full CVs and resumes of employees, but when it's posted to the website, that information is redacted to protect that individual's private information.
Yeah. Okay, it's just in our record. We see it.
Yes, sir.
But if it's posted, it is redacted.
Yes, sir.
That was a concern. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on, if you will, please, to item E, and that is a request approval of retirement incentive plans for tenured faculty and unclassified employees, and this comes from the Law Center. Chancellor Pierre.
Yes, sir. Chairman Gilliam and members of Personnel Committee. This is a continuation of a series of planning moves that we have put into place in the Law Center, actually going back about 9-10 years ago when we were in a very tough situation during the general administration, and we had to make some decisions about how we were going to reduce our personnel costs. And we have found this to be a very good practice for us to, every 2 or 3 years, bring this up again as an opportunity to determine, you know, where some of our folks want to go, if they want to take that option, so we can again plan for replacement, renewals, et cetera, and so that we don't have a rush to get folks to do it all of a sudden, and then we're in a situation where how are we going to replace all these people? So this has been approved by this board several times. It's really helped us in terms of our planning efforts. You will, for example, next month, hopefully the FARC committee will bring us recommendations to hire new faculty. And sometimes we get folks that leave us unexpectedly, and this is a way to sort of not have this happen so often, that we can plan, we can see in advance of what's happening with some of the folks who may be thinking about departure, and offering them a financial incentive so that this can be an orderly process for us. And we have found that it has worked very well for us over the last 9 years, 9 or 10 years.
Sure. Thank you, Chancellor Pierre. One observation before we even entertain a motion, one way or the other. This is a marvelous template for, I believe, dealing with an incentive for early retirement. Because I remember on one of our campuses, it was kind of opened up. What happened, what Chancellor Pierre has done, if you look at this, it's in, if you're looking in your thing, it's in the packet, 163. And he goes in detail. First of all, he limits the number of people who can apply to 8, I believe. He also makes it first time, first come, I believe. Is that right, Chancellor Pierre?
Yes.
The idea is that to do this, otherwise you risk happening what happened to one of our other campuses. You get a significant brain drain. Because I don't blame you, if it's offered. If I were in their position, I'd take it. But on one of our campuses, indeed, hundreds of people in leadership roles took advantage of it, and it evidenced itself in just a complete drain. So it's a template I offer to you, fellow board members. Okay. What is your pleasure on this item coming from the Law Center?
So moved.
Been moved by Dr. Tarver, been seconded by Ms. Dale. Those in favor, please let it know by sign of aye. Opposed, nay. This item is thus approved. Thank you very much. We move down to item number 6, other business. Hearing no other business, we move to item number 7, adjournment. Your pleasure, been moved by Dr. Alana Williams, second by Ms. Dale. Those in favor, please let it know by sign of aye. Opposed, nay. Personnel Committee, Mr. Chairman, is thus adjourned.
Thank you, Chairman Gilliam. Ask that Chair of the Student Affairs Committee, Dr. Ronnie Whitfield, call his committee to order.
Hereby calling the Student Affairs Committee to order. Mr. President, can I get a roll call vote?
Absolutely.
Dr. Ronnie Whitfield, Chair.
Here.
Mr. Raymond Fondell, Vice Chair.
Here.
Ms. Azelle Dudley. Ms. Nadia S. Foster. Mrs. Ann Smith. Mrs. Maple L. Gaines. Mr. Myron K. Lawson.
Present.
We have quorum.
Having a quorum. Next item of business, adoption of the agenda. All those in favor? So moved. Probably moved and seconded. Agenda is adopted. Any public comments or cards pertaining to this agenda? No cards, no public comments. Next item of business, number 5, informational items. We'll move to informational items. Item 5A, registration process up to date. SUBR, Mr. President.
I think Dr. Tahu and Dr. Walton are both here, but let me make some commentary and they can flesh it out if they'd like. Let me start by saying this is not a new issue, and it's been in place with issues for more years than can be counted. Upon my arrival last summer, I was stunned at the volume of issues that arose with individual students and collectively. We did a debriefing late in the fall of all of the various, what I have taken to call key functional areas, and had a conversation about how to proceed. Then the spring enrollment period came on board and it was better, but still not anywhere close to where it needed to be. So earlier this term, as a result of that, I asked Dr. Sahu and Dr. Walton to head up a team to view at this, and we're making some progress. You can see it just in the spring group, how we've dealt with that at some level, but given past occurrences, I'm not comfortable being assured we're necessarily on the right path until we execute on a few more things. So key functional areas: admissions, financial aid, the bursar's office, academic advising, housing and residence life, and registrar are the key functional areas to execute on a much more efficient and effective onboarding process, particularly for new students. Those the leaders of each one of those areas are now meeting weekly to coordinate and have conversations and troubleshoot. More importantly, a 2-day retreat for these key functional areas, including all staff, has been in the planning stages, because most importantly, it can't just be the leadership that buys into what's going on. It's got to go all the way down through the organization, and every member understand how every individual interaction with the student or a parent can impact the kind of experience that students have. First day of that will be obviously to put the staff in a position where they appreciate that they need to keep themselves safe and well, and understand how to deal with the stress of the circumstance. Day 2 topics will be talking about working together effectively for successful and seamless onboarding process, customer service and customer care training, new expectations for engagement with students, and effective communication with Generation Z. We already have in mind a couple of different opportunities to talk about, to bring people in to do some training and on customer care and customer service. So, bigger picture. I have a handout for the board, which I'll pass out momentarily. March housing applications for fall 23 are started being accepted. March 20 to 24, registration for fall 2023 student athletes. And then late March, registration for students with less than 60 credits. March 31, registration began for all students. April, housing applications for fall students are being accepted. Admissions is monitoring high achieving first-time students. Scholarship offers are being sent. I'm not going to allege all this is real smooth, but we have a timeline and we have the appropriate people paying attention to that. In May, advisement for summer and fall new students begins. Mid-May, housing applications will close and we will begin assigning housing. In June, the launch of a call center so that we can deal with these folks. People can get phone answers and get responses to inquiries out in a timely fashion. We have an outside contractor we're going to do that with. By Thursday, June 1, housing assignments will be sent. Early June, bills to returning students will be sent so they can discern how to prepare for continuing enrollment by paying their bill. And shortly thereafter, the billing for students who are enrolling. June 15th, new student orientation session begins. Wednesday, June 28th, move-in day for Jaguar Success Academy, and Thursday, June 29th, orientation for Jag Success Academy. So we have all of these various entities coordinating and meeting weekly to troubleshoot and talk to one another. I think one of the major problems with why this is not run well historically is that each of these units, these key functioning areas, have operated in silos without understanding how what they do impacts the work of the other units. So we have a concerted effort to coordinate these efforts and move forward. So let me pause there. Dr. Walton, Dr. Sahu, or Dr. Walton?
Dr. Whitfield, members of the Student Affairs Committee, Mr. President. I'm going to gloss over quickly some slides because the President has already spoken about the key functional areas. But our overall goal is to enhance student success and do that by demonstrating the accomplishment of enhanced student outcomes. But we do that by being operationally efficient, but also by providing exemplary customer service. This is the comparison from 22 over 23 now. You will see there is a significant increase in applications to Southern University Baton Rouge campus. We have also admitted more, students. But what I think will stand out, if you look at the number of students who have applied for FAFSA and number of students who have been admitted, but they have been packaged. So that shows that we have a good chance of having a larger enrollment, but we'll also be able to provide the financial aid, assistance, and the students will better understand what the need is and how they're going to meet the need. You can stop me at any time. But the President talked about the housing information. We have a challenge on campus in terms of we are only limited to 2,100, seats or beds, and we are keeping about 500 for the returning students and 1,500 for the new students, and about 100 of them will, depend upon Boley Hall and whether we can continue to use Boley Hall beyond the fall semester. I'll go, the President already talked about the dates, but this is something that the President insisted that we provide a full picture of a student coming in and graduating. But what is the first year experience in terms of expectations? So this is we'll provide you this presentation. This is the journey on the bluff in the first year students coming in and how they will be welcomed, how they will be registered, how they will pay their bills, how they'll be in housing, academic advising, registration, attending classes, academic support, and then the year 2, year 3. And so that's a roadmap for success of these students. And at each level, there is also activity mentioned and who will be doing what. And that's exactly the detail that the president is holding us accountable to. So, but the proof is in the execution of this plan, and we remain committed to do it. One of the things that, we learned last year this time is that to embrace what we call a summer bridge program. And it was supported by private money from Dow. And we are able to provide between, 30 students, 27 students who came in early. They were admitted, but they came in early. Some of them were athletes. And we learned from embracing these students coming in early and provide them the courses that they needed to get ahead. So the president instruction is provide courses so the students can come in early, a month early, get the attention and get the service and either get ahead or catch up. And that's what we did. And I want to report that all those 27 to 30 students are here. We had a success rate. All of them have been retained, where our campus success rate in terms of retention for the first year students is 60%. The retention for this cohort is 100%. And they all have high GPAs. And you saw, the reports prior. And we want to replicate that for about 225 to 250 students and expand it next year to about 500, and a goal of bringing about half the students ahead so that they know the classes they have to take, they know where the library is, they know where the dormitories are, and where they will know where to eat their meals, and then the culture of Southern University, but also imbibe in them the culture of success, time management skills, money management skills, relationship management skills. But at the same time, if they have a deficiency in English or math, or they want to take some general education courses in terms of African American experience, or some course in political science or psychology, and they don't have a deficiency in English, math, they'll be able to do that. We'll be providing them this instruction by using our best faculty, by providing an intimate learning environment, by providing them academic advising, but also using last year students to be the ambassadors with them, working with them, and to provide the encouragement. And these students at the beginning of this semester will be ambassadors for the rest of the students coming in. Thanks to the Law Center, they were able to provide us with 250 laptops, and we are also, and 225 iPads that we are going to use with the faculty, train them so that when these students come, our goal is, it's an ambitious goal, but the goal is that all the material for the students will be already preloaded into the technology that they are being provided. And we want to learn from this program and expand it to the entering class. So I think what somebody said yesterday, reviewing it, that this is going to be a game changer for Southern University in terms of student success and student outcomes. So, but in order to do this, we have also put together what the need will be. We think this will result in higher enrollment, but there'll be some needs in order to service the needs, academic needs, and the support needs. Immediately, I think we need more financial aid counselors. We need academic advisors in the university college where the first year, second year students remain. We need professional academic advisors in the colleges so that they go through the process where they know. Last semester, we were very intentional in terms of looking at the plan that we provide, the degree plan, 4-year graduation plan that for each of the program uniquely reviewed and provided us with an academic plan that we are presenting the students to come in, say that you take these courses in this sequence, you will graduate in 4 years.
And not to cut you off, but I want to make sure we get through this pretty quickly. I just had a couple of questions. First, we talked about the increased enrollment in applications, but have we fully staffed, and I wrote these down so I wouldn't forget, have we fully staffed admissions, recruitment, financial aid, and advisement for the fall? And if not, when do we plan to do that to improve registration? And as a backup to that, President Shields, have we thought about increasing the compensation for our current employees within these offices who are the boots on the ground for lack of a better word? some type of appreciation, and we're gonna get to that mental health piece as well. Maybe Dr. Walton or President Shields can address that.
I'll yield to the president.
So I believe Vice President McClinton and the leadership of those units, at least the enrollment unit, have met to discuss what sort of investment is needed. The real question about this is making it a priority and making the investment there. And so we're trying to fine tune that. Some of it is, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but it's going to take some work to work through it. But we're going to try to find the resources for this and the call center and the academic advisors and the admissions counselors, et cetera. I've already had a conversation with the Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Services about the salaries that have been established. And so we got to find the money to do that.
And is our Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management here today?
No, she's busy doing the enrollment stuff. Dr. Walton?
I know that we hate she was too busy to attend a board meeting.
Would have been important to have it, but Dr. Walton, I'm sorry.
Yes, I think to your question about support for staff.
Yes.
That you asked, your second question, that's going to be the first day of the retreat. So the first day of the retreat is going to be all about self-care, self-help, those things that we can do to support. And we'll begin with an appreciation kind of environment, because although they operate in a very intense space, we do acknowledge that they operate in a very intense space, and we do want to show appreciation as we go into that. So the first day is going to be about, we appreciate you and provide opportunities for self-care that won't be just that day, but ongoing. And then the next day we'll get into the more intense training aspect of the retreat.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Fondale, then Chairman Lawson.
Part of my question is similar to what Dr. Whitfield was speaking in terms of staffing, making sure that we have enough people in positions. The numbers that you showed a few minutes ago showed that there were, the same time last year, April, there were 6,000 applicants. Okay, you've seen an uptick of almost 5,000. So you see something that is coming this way, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Are we going to be prepared in such a way to be able to handle that onrush? And I'm appreciative. I think at our retreat, the question was asked, what can we do to facilitate it? And we're getting down to, I really think, the nuts and bolts of it by addressing it. But we're going to have a large number. We're going to have phone calls. We're going to have questions. We're going to have challenges that we're going to be faced. The retreat is meant, Mr. President, as a way of addressing those particular issues that are coming forward. How many numbers? I guess for me, the numbers that are going to be needed by our next couple of meetings. And then putting it upon us to say, okay, let's find those funds to make sure that we can address those issues. So in terms of numbers, staffing with close to 5,000 more applicants, it's going to be more students. What would be a good number to say would be needed, for example, in advisors? You just think we need more advisors.
The president made sure that we were, sorry.
So we need to do some analysis whether or not the actual volume of applications will really exceed where we are now. It would appear now there's an influx of applications earlier because the ultimate volume of applications a year ago was just short of 11,000. It may work out that if this trend continues, it'll be up by 2,000 or 3,000. I'm not sure. We need at least 2 to 3 more admissions counselors moving forward to deal with things. We need to hire, at least 2 advisors in each college to do that. We need at least 3 additional financial aid counselors. So we are working through developing what that looks like. At the same time, we've got to look at how do we stop the churn in employees. Is it just salary or is it other things that are causing the churn? You bring somebody on, you spend 6 months a year, them getting used to it. Why do they leave? So we're in the process. We got to make the investment in bringing these folks on board, but also figuring out how do we, once we get them on board, how do we keep them here? Is it more salary? Is it other things? So we're in the process of analyzing that.
Yeah, a time frame for that would be the next several months of probably immediately following your retreat.
Well, I would hope by the 1st of June, we'd have a strategy laid out.
Okay.
It's some of that hiring, once we find out where we're going to get the money, invest in that. Some of that hiring might happen sooner than that.
And one other quick thing, we have a number of applicants, and I've seen in previous years that our applicants receive letters to say, unfortunately, you've not been accepted to SUBR, but you're eligible for the Susler Connect program. And one of my concerns that may be able to be addressed is that I believe that all students should be accepted into our system. There's a place here for all students within our system. And I think a letter stating that, you know, unfortunately, you've not been accepted to SUBR to a 17 or 18-year-old student may be like, we don't want you, but we have a place for all students through our Susler Connect. And I would hope that would be something that you could address to say that all 11,000 applicants are eligible to come to Southern University.
I think that's a conversation that chancellors of the Susler campus and SUNO, we need to get together and coordinate that.
I would look forward to them addressing it and approaching this committee as such to come up with some uniform plan to make sure that every student that touches that button and says they want to go to Southern understand that they have a pathway to doing that.
Good point, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman Lawson.
Tied to that, along that line, Dr. South, I guess you're addressing as assistant provost. Where are we on our conversation that asked about with students that will not be housed? How are we coming with the conversation with the Shreveport campus and with the New Orleans campus chancellors with housing? I'm concerned that we're making beds available for another school. I'm excited to do that, but I'm concerned that some of our students may decide to go elsewhere because they want an experience on a campus. Where are we with that conversation?
Maybe Dr. Walton
I can speak to Baton Rouge. At the Baton Rouge campus, we are currently, as I think earlier in his report, the parameters that we are operating here have been indicated. So what we're doing there, I've appointed an off-campus housing liaison that's going to be in the housing office. It's going to be working in the Department of Residence Life and Housing, and that person will work directly with those students who we are not able to house. We know, up front, and we've been communicating throughout, even to our alumni body, early on to let folk know where we are with regard to housing. We'll have a better indication as we move through May and June about exactly where we are. But in the meantime, all the students who've applied are being contacted, and we're working with them to assess, rather than just saying, go to the website, look for something. We're giving them another step of assistance with regard to these are the places that are going to be Southern student friendly. Yes.
Specifically I got a call from a student in the California area that wants to come to Southern University here as a freshman. If that student can't get housing but wants to leave California, my question is, are we talking, as I suggested the last teams meeting we had, where are we in the talking to the other campuses about providing housing? Whether it's a 2-year program because they're entering freshmen, right? Or whether it's the New Orleans program referred to New Orleans. And that's one of my questions is, who's handling that?
So we would be able, so we had not thought about sending them away from Baton Rouge. We were trying to find alternatives in the city. I wasn't aware of the previous conversation, but absolutely, certainly open to, would welcome the opportunity to speak with my counterparts at those institutions about housing availability on those campuses. We had been focusing on trying to find things inside of Baton Rouge because students were trying to come here. But if that's a freshman student from California, we do still absolutely have spaces for freshmen. And so I hope I would want to talk to whoever that is there to make sure that that's communicated, that we are not out of housing for freshmen at this time.
And have we advised advanced students that some of them may not have housing?
Yes, they are being advised. Yes, they are ongoing. Yes.
If I would also say that the urgency has made several board members step forward. So we are aware of potential other opportunities closer to campus.
Had a meeting
for upper division.
Okay. Yes.
Close by and also going the opposite direction from LSU.
Yes.
They tend to all go to LSU.
Yes.
So we're likely to have more opportunities for students here. And I also think there's an opportunity with an existing facility close by that I probably shouldn't
We definitely
talk
will.
about, but
Yeah.
that's we are likely to have, we're not going to have as much housing as we like, but we're going to have more than we've had recently, and we're going to have it coordinated better.
Yeah.
President, I don't want to kill it. We could talk about this all day, but the other thing is that we're focusing on our incoming, our freshman students, but what about the continuing students that need housing as well? So keep that in mind, unless you, I don't want.
Because we're not going to direct it on campus.
Right, but I'm saying, but our current students that are here, what are we gonna do with the students that are continuing students that need housing as well?
That's what this off-campus effort is about. The continuing. Is that?
So do you see the wave coming? You having one person handle those transitions, right?
So for returning students,
I'm talking about who are you handling to help with the housing situation? You're hiring one person, right?
so we're going to actually repurposing people in housing because
So let's say it's two.
yes.
So what is the overage right now?
So the overage right now with regard to upperclassmen, we have over 1,000 applications for upperclassmen that have come in. Now, part of that, for context, part of that is that there's no fee to reapply for housing as a returning student. So oftentimes returning students will apply for housing just, when it opens in February, they'll apply just as a stopgap effort. But our numbers are showing that by May, many of them have decided that they're going to live off campus because they want to live off campus. And those kinds of things, because we do have a situation where some students just want apartments because they want their independent living. But they will do that as a stopgap. But those 1,200, I think between 1,100 and 1,200 students have been informed, and they are informed that they will be worked with. But there are also other factors that come into play with regard to housing availability. There's going to be, at the end of the semester, there will be the financial situation that comes into play, whether or not students' balances are cleared or not. In order to maintain your housing application, all of your financial obligations to the university have to be cleared by the end of May. There's the satisfactory academic progress piece that comes into play with regard to housing. So there are a lot of variables, a lot of factors that come into play between May and the end of June, or May and the beginning of June, but during the month of May, quite frankly, that determine what that number looks like. So we know that number is going to go down based on past experience, but we are working along the way. And those students are being talked to, called, even asked, are they still interested in housing? So while it looks out of hand now, that generally doesn't end up looking exactly how it looks. Like if we come back next month, it'll be a more accurate portrayal of who really is trying to live on campus in August, and we'll be able to speak to that.
We have one more board member with a question, and then we're going to try to move on to the mental health update. Ms. Fondell.
The numbers, how many rooms do we have on campus? Available beds that you have to fill?
In the fall, we will have right at 2,100 beds. That's including Bethune.
Okay.
We will lose Bethune in the spring, but generally you lose about that amount of students just for
And about
graduation.
1,500 of those beds are going to be for incoming.
We want them
freshmen?
we plan to keep them for incoming students. Yes.
All right. That means you have an additional 500 for returning students. I know you presently have a waiting list for some students who may have missed the portal or some upper class students. Are some of those 600 students the ones you're speaking with about putting them in maybe a different part of housing? Because I know in the past, some of our chancellors have actually went in and just kind of got rooms at a place, knowing that they were going to get situated, giving them a place to go. Is that something that y'all are taking into consideration?
Yes, we'll have all of that alternative off campus that'll be established. So by the month of June, we'll be able to say you're assigned to this. Well, as President Shields indicated, there was a meeting this week about something. I guess we really shouldn't go into it right now. That would be a specific place where that would be a southern space that we're occupying versus necessarily sending people to apartments. So we'll have different kinds of alternatives that we're working through as we're able to finalize the numbers more specifically.
Thank you. I just wanted the number of 2,100 beds that are available on this campus.
Yeah, approximately 2,100. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fondell. And I just can't stress again, my chairman, want to make sure that I made that point, that it would be very nice that our Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management be present for these types of discussions, because as you can see, there's a lot of questions and concerns about what's going on with registration. So we're going to move on to informational item 5B, student mental health wellness update. Dr. Sahu, Dr. Walt.
Thank you, sir. I will be just remiss if I don't say that if enrollment goes up, I'll also have to find faculty members to teach those classes. And I've been doing that with the deans, constantly keeping them informed and engaged. Now to the mental health update. Based on the data provided, very current data, we served about 589 students beginning August 2022. And they came multiple times. So the total appointments came to about 2,400, appointments to serve the mental health counseling needs or other needs for 589 students. This is on your left, you will see what is the data for the Association of University College Counselors, the percentage of the students who come with these specific needs. And then you also have the University Counseling Center data for 2021 and 2022. You will see in this data, the biggest difference is that in terms of, while others are similar or there is a difference, but what stands out is the label or the item called family concerns. So our students, the kind of students we, embrace, they're coming with set of issues, and they're most, while the association data is 29% for the cohort group there, peer group there, ours has gone from 62% to about 74%. But for students needing more attention, focused attention beyond what we provide at the counseling center, we had 44 psychiatric referrals and 45 appointments with percentage of clients. The total clients we saw, about 9.2% of these clients needed psychiatric attention. There were 2 hospitalizations. One student returned to campus to take classes. The other student sought and received administrative withdrawal. The enhanced student services we're providing is both, high touch, where we provide appointments to the students, but these services are available also 24/7, 365 days by using other approaches or peer groups, and also, by Together All, holistic behavioral health, and all these opportunities in terms of online, virtual, immediately talk with somebody, those are being offered. We are having conversations with other units in terms of how we can expand mental health counseling, needs of our students. Everybody is recruiting, hiring more mental health counselors. The salary has got to be competitive. We have 3 funded, the president has approved 3 funded vacant positions, announcement to roll out, and we are constantly in the process of recruiting and retaining the mental health counselors. Yes, sir.
I actually wasn't raising my hand, but we're going to go ahead and try to wrap it up unless you have some major points. But I will say that, first of all, let me commend Dr. Zach Johnson. Zach, could you stand up, please? We had a student that had a crisis last week, and it was posted on social media. And before, things got array, he was in touch. We got the student treated and I spoke to Dr. Walton about it as well. But I appreciate your attention to our students, the care that you're providing for them. You're working outside of your job description is something you don't get paid for. So thank you for what you do. But we've got to be able to provide. I see we said 8 to 4:30 for counseling. These young people need 24/7 counseling. Not saying it's stuff that we can do, but somebody needs to be accessible. Someone told me this is just a weak generation, that they're soft, it's a whole different generation of students from online bullying and social media. We're talking about mental health days at Yale University, and Howard University is now doing mental health days, not just for their students, but for faculty and staff. So there's tons of things that we need to try to get together, and the president's on board with us getting those things. So unless there's some specific questions, I don't want to lose our quorum. So if any board members had anything to say, we'll kind of keep it moving. And Doc, I'll get that presentation from, but we're going to bring this back to the board so we can address it. But we've got to pay attention to these young people. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know if we have the facilities and the staff to actually address the needs of our students. I don't think that's to the fault of us, but now that we're aware of the problem, we have to address it. So I truly appreciate what you guys are doing.
You made Dr. Johnson stand up. I also want to mention that he is leading the JAG Success Program and he's leading the university college. He is the go-to person for the students, the summer bridge program. So I thought I would mention.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other business?
Yeah,
Student affairs?
I do. I have one thing. Under other business, I just want to say to my colleagues that we know that it's a voting year, and we have a vigorous issue votes program here on our campus. And I would hope that we can incorporate either with the parish here in each one of our parishes to make sure that at a registration that we provide an opportunity for our students to register if they so choose to vote in this area, or assist them in filling out the paperwork so that they can be a vote back in their area. As we know how important elections are in an election year, I would encourage all of our chancellors and throughout this system to make sure that we are doing our part to make sure that our students go out and they vote. So thank you for that.
Any other business? Hearing none, we move for adjournment. Can I get a motion? Motion, second? Second. Meeting adjourned.
Okay, time to call the Southern University Board of Supervisors meeting. Roll call, Mr. President.
Mr. Myron K. Lawson, Chair, Dr. Ronnie Whitfield, Vice Chair, Attorney Jody Amadi, Ms. Zell Dudley, Mr. Raymond Fondell Jr. here, Ms. Nadia Foster, Mrs. Maple Gaines, Mr. Sam Gilliam, Mr. Paul Matthews, Ms. Christy Reeves, Attorney Des Moines Rutledge, Attorney Edwin Shorty, Mrs. Ann Smith, Dr. Leon R. Tarver II, Reverend Dr. Samuel Tolbert, Dr. Orlando Williams. We have a quorum.
We're missing a quorum. Okay, all right, we'll go to adoption of the agenda. I think Sam was back. Yes. Okay, all in my modifications to the agenda, and I think we do have item number F6F, DCFS contract, and these will require unanimous consent. Item G is award of the posthumous degree. That's Mr. Reginald Elwar, SUBR. As modifications, we're gonna do the addition first. Let's vote for the additions. All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll roll call. Thank you for that.
A motion to amend and a unanimous vote.
Okay, the motion to amend. Okay, you got a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll do roll call to amend the agenda as made by the motion. Roll call.
Mr. Myron K. Lawson.
Yes.
Dr. Ronnie Whitfield, Attorney Jody Amadi, Ms. Zell Dudley, Mr. Raymond Fondell Jr.
Yes.
Ms. Nadia Foster, Mrs. Maple Gaines, Mr. Sam Gilliam, Mr. Paul Matthews, Mrs. Christy Reeves, Attorney Des Moines Rutledge, Attorney Edwin Shorty, Mrs. Ann A. Smith, Dr. Leon R. Tarver II, Reverend Dr. Samuel Tolbert, Dr. Orlando Williams.
Thank you. The motion passes. Okay, item number 3, adoption of the agenda as amended. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved properly second by board member Fondell. Discussion? Hear none? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 4, public comments. No one approaching and no cards presented. We'll go to special presentations. I think we handled that on the front end. Item number 6, we have approval of the minutes, March 17th.
Chairman, I would move adoption and approval of items 6A through G.
You have heard the motion properly made by Board Member Rutledge, seconded by Dr. Tarver. Discussion on that motion. Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 7, resolutions.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we have 6 resolutions and 1 commendation, starting with Dr. Edward Kidd Jordan family. Dr. Jordan majored in music education at Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He later moved to New Orleans in 1955, where he was noted as the improvisational jazz saxophonist and music educator from New Orleans, Louisiana. He taught at Southern University at New Orleans as an associate professor of the Jazz Studies program from 1974 until his retirement in 2006. He passed away on April 7th, 2023. Mr. Thomas Lewis White family. Mr. White earned a Bachelor of Science degree and Master of Arts degree in Agriculture Education from Southern University in Baton Rouge. He passed away on March 21st, 2023. Mr. Rick Gallo Senior family. Mr. Gallo, the father of Grambling State University President Rick Gallo Jr., was a longtime community entrepreneur who was also a Grambling State University alumnus who served as mayor of Grambling from 1981 to 1985. He passed away on Friday, February 24th, 2023, at the age of 87. Dr. George Williams Jr. family. Dr. Williams is known to most as G, Doc, or just Uncle George. George graduated from Southern University in January of 1957 with a BS degree in biology, concentrating in the area of botany. He earned his master's and doctorate degrees in botany, specializing in plant physiology. Dr. Williams returned to his alma mater in January of 1963, where he retired in December of 2000, but continued to work as a faculty member in the Biological Sciences Department. He held life memberships in Southern University Alumni Federation and Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, as well as an honorary citizen of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. He passed away on December 25th, 2022. Mrs. Sharon Williams Cress family. Mrs. Cress was a native of New Orleans, Louisiana, and a resident of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Ms. Cress was a graduate of Southern University, New Orleans, and Southern University, Baton Rouge. Ms. Cress was hired as an instructor at Southern University, Baton Rouge in 1981 and retired in May of 2019. She passed away on October 14th, 2022. Mr. Marsha Emmanuel Collins family. Mr. Marshall Emmanuel Collins, 19, the son of Southern University Law Center 2L student Martin Collins. Marshall was an aspiring musician looking forward to attending Louisiana State University in the fall of 2023. Mr. Collins was one of 4 teenagers killed in an act of violence in Dadeville, Alabama on April 15th, 2023. We also offer accommodation for Mr. Clarence Jones Jr. on the occasion of his 80th birthday, a 1966 graduate of Southern University and A&M College with a Bachelor's of Arts in Vocal Music. Mr. Jones is the organizer of the famed Heritage Choir, who are dedicated to the preservation of the Negro spiritual. The choir has traveled and performed nationally and internationally for more than 45 years. A gifted pianist, Mr. Jones also serves as a music educator and educational administrator for 36 years. Happy 80th birthday, Clarence Jones Jr. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the resolutions and commendation.
Mr. Chairman, okay.
You've heard the.
I'd like to add former Attorney General Richard Phillip IU to that list as well.
Thank you for that. You've heard the resolutions.
And I don't have the name, but I know that our assistant chief over at the SUBR Police Department, his daughter was tragically, she lost her life tragically here. And I just want to make sure that the record will reflect the same.
Certainly had the daughter of
Kevin Johnson, the assistant police chief for SUBR.
Absolutely. Thank you for that,
All right, thank you.
both of you. Any others? And certainly Kid Jordan, I heard some wonderful things about him from our colleague, Miss Maple Gaines, and certainly our colleague Ed, who experienced many, I'm sure, great times, and he was a very widely regarded in the music world. So thank you for sharing those thoughts about him with me. Okay, you heard the resolutions. Their motion moved by board member Rutledge, second by Dr. Whitfield. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 8, informational items. That's legislative update A, B, presidential report, C, chancellor reports.
Let me just deal with the legislative things. In the interest of time. Pleased at the turnout by the Legislative Black Caucus to the reception yesterday. We're having numerous contacts. The HBCU day was there. I've been meeting and corresponding with our Senator Fields, getting his guidance on how to move through some of these things. We're hitting a very fast-paced time where I will probably be in the Capitol 2 or 3 times a week. Met with the governor this week. I would ask all of you to be familiar with our handout. I think you have it of what our priorities are, and be advocating from your legislative connections to support the initiative. And it's a pretty exciting time. Met with the governor this week. He, more than anyone else, wants to put us in the best position possible, and to be anything we want, we got to try to ask for and get this year, because he has no certainty what's going to happen in the future. And even if it's a bad thing, if you're starting at a higher level, the cuts will be less painful.
Job well done on the handout on the legislative.
Very well put. Yeah.
Well, that's yeah, and the capital project side, you heard from the 2 people that are driving that. Ken Dawson and Simone Whitmore are doing fabulous work, both from the start last August right up till today. So my thanks for their help and support. I want to make sure that the board is aware of their fabulous work.
I want to thank Dr. Merrick as well. I mean, I've heard nothing but positive comments, Dr. Merrick, and certainly the attendance have constantly increased. And we had a room full on a Teams call recently of a local delegation, and I'm excited, Mr. President, about our packages alluded to. Next, presidential report.
Will that suffice? Most of what I was going to hit, we spent time talking about.
We don't want you to read War and Peace. That's what you're.
So our chancellor reports, I've already given a 2-minute time limit to them.
Yes.
I'm saying that out loud now so that you all know that they know that's the instruction that was given.
Dr. Renee pushed his clock, so we'll see. Chancellors.
Right.
Chancellors.
Speed data.
1 minute, 45 seconds.
All right, well, thank you for being so generous. My report is in your packet, but there's one thing that I want to highlight. And I want to thank Dr. Williams, and I want to thank Mrs. Gaines for being on our campus when we announced this historic academic partnership with Delgado Community College. We're leveraging the universal transfer legislation that was passed by the legislature last year. And so we are making certain that those students from Delgado come to SUNO as juniors in their majors and not have to have their transcripts evaluated. Secondly, they're going to get priority housing, and we have scholarships for those students. And so again, they'll go into their majors, into most majors, to include our newly approved nursing program, and most recently, our cybersecurity program at the university. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Doctor. Well done. I don't know whether to call him Chancellor, Guru, Jackknife, Dr. Penny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, President Chancellor. Very quickly, number one, Sussler's graduation is slated for May 10th. That's a Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Shreveport Convention Center. Everyone is invited. Invitations will be extended, but I especially want to highlight that the graduation keynote speaker is none other than the Honorable Miss Zazelle Dudley, and we're very excited about her address to our students. Number two, very quickly, this month we received $206,000 for our surgical technology program. It's going to do great things for our students and faculty. And in closing, we signed, we think, a historic engineering technology affiliate agreement this month with Northwestern University, providing yet another pathway for our two-year students to proceed with getting their BSN. So very excited. We executed one with the Baton Rouge campus. So the second was with Northwestern. And on that note, Mr. Chairman, I yield back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Penning. I look forward to hearing my colleague. That's great. Dr. McMeans.
Good afternoon. I just have one announcement, and it's relevant to one of the areas that we're trying to grow, which is the helping our farmers with meat processing. Recently, the Cooperative Extension Program here at Southern University received $600,000 from USDA to build a mobile livestock harvesting unit. And the importance of that is that a lot of our small, disadvantaged, underserved farmers have to go outside of the state to process their meat. And so now not only what the $2 million renovation that we are upgrading our facility, now we have this mobile unit. And you heard earlier, it's one of the items that's in the legislature in HB2 that we're trying to push. And next week I'll be in DC meeting with the Secretary of Staff to push it even more so we can expand that facility instead of just upgrade it. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. McMeans. Chancellor, almost said McMeans. Chancellor John Pierre.
Yes, sir.
SU Law Center.
Good afternoon. Just quickly, I want to thank the board again for the votes, and especially on the DCFS contract. I think you will see that this will really help us do a lot of great things for the community. I want to thank the president again for his donation of his papers from the Grutter case, and we really appreciate that. And those papers will really become more important in the next couple of months as the Supreme Court decides the University of North Carolina and Harvard case. So we look forward to having some very robust discussions, and just want to say that thank you, Mr. Rutledge, Senator Rutledge, for recognizing IU, because 30 years ago he was in the fight to save the Southern University system, and I think a lot of people do not remember how tough a fight that was. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Vice President.
Chancellor Pierre, I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me over to the esports center. You guys got to go check it out. It's an amazing facility. They have games tomorrow starting at 9 a.m. So I'm gonna bring my son so we can kind of see the energy, but it is beautiful. It's in the student union. You guys got to go check it out. It's state of the art. And if anything comes up missing, I didn't take it.
Yeah. I just think that's not becoming of you to blame your son for wanting to go over there. Hey, there you go. Thank you for hosting us too, Chancellor. It was a very fine evening. We enjoyed ourselves thoroughly. And we certainly appreciate the president giving us his papers. That was very significant. And I was also impressed with the afro he used to have. They have a picture of him in there. Go check it out. It's very impressive. Not the afro part. Dr. Sahu, Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I just want to highlight that we are working very collaboratively as part of the NANM agenda with LSU. At the invitation of the provost, I addressed the deans and the academic council at LSU and presented to them all the areas we can collaborate, why it is a win-win. Additionally, the vice provost and the graduate school dean came yesterday and was part of our program for the graduate research symposium for the students and the faculty. And we hosted a whole day on that. And so we are competing in the field, but we are collaborating in all other areas where it is possible. And I think that's good for the city and good for our state. And I also want to, say that what we did with the Graduate Student Research Symposium and learn from that, we are going to replicate that for the undergraduate students. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Hey, any other business needs to come before the Southern University Board of Supervisors for the good of the enterprise? You heard the motion. Consider this adjourned. Thank you.